Hi, I'm Angified. I started Angified Presents.
We share the love of music.
It has been medicine and therapy. Nothing else worked.
It has saved many of us. With mental health, we need to open our eyes.
Hurt people hurt people.
We ask that you listen, comprehend, and relate with your ears.
Form that heart of unity and one.
We share on this stage.
Statistics, feelings.
And ourselves.
We stand with the belief to be you, to be heard, and to be original.
We all may be different, with opinions and beliefs.
At the end of the day, we are all brothers and sisters.
We are family.
We ask that you join us in a magical journey with artists from around the world. Open your minds, let in the love,
and listen with your hearts.
We all want a better tomorrow. Be one.
Communicate and look out for one another. And then, and only then, will you find the world.
We will find peace in all the world.
You'll find the world. And you will find in this shining world heroes among us and every boy and girl. Many have been broken, red hearts turn black. Love will melt the ice and turn it back, and you will find the world. You will find the world. You will find the world. And when you find a place called home, where everyone is free to roam, a whole new world, a better place for our children's futures at stake. And you'll find with music in your soul, laughter in your hearts. Together we can grow a better place with love in us all. And you will find together we can save it all. And you will find a place called home, where
We cover digital audio workstations and music tools. We explore theory, gear, and MIDI too. How to weigh and compose, and the art of arranging. Taking a look at AI and how the times have changed. On a PC or a Mac, and even with a mobile device, we'll be talking about it all every Thursday night. From software to plugins and synths that entice. Dive deep into tech and let creativity take flight. Talkin IT. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. From bedroom producers to seasoned pros, we're breaking it down so knowledge grows. Whether you're a DJ or a beat-making wizard, we got the tips and tricks to make your sound sizzle. Mixing and mastering, that's our jam. With the tutorials and tips on how much rap. Get the best quality from your setup and gear. Tune in every week and lend us your ear. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. We're talking IT. We're talking IT. Every Thursday night on Angified.
Every Thursday night on Angified. We're
Right
back.
Right here. Every time. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Right.
The weather's finally settling down and halfway through this month. I can't wait for spring.
Yeah. I just heard that we're getting snow this weekend. So I guess we're
Guess
getting another
what?
foot on top of everything.
You're getting it. I've been lucky as hell up here.
It's all been hitting us instead, but whatever. We get around it. It's when it gets really far south. That's when it's a problem. Like I remember when my sister went to college down in North Carolina and like they got an inch of snow, it would shut down the state because they're just not used to it because they would never get snow down there at the time. So, you know, as like when it happened down in Texas, when they got that ice and all that, I mean, that kind of thing, when they're not expecting it, it never happens. It's really bad. Up here, we get it every year. So it's, you know, we have good years, we have bad years, but we're always expecting snow, you know?
Yeah. I was down in Texas in 2002 and it snowed that winter and it shut down. It shut down Dallas.
Yeah,
for 3
exactly.
days.
And it doesn't even have to be a lot of snow. I mean, that's the thing is they're so unprepared for it that, you know, they don't have a bunch of plows on standby and like all that kind of thing that we have up here because they wouldn't need them 95% of the time.
Yeah, they suck. At least to drive in.
Yeah. It's true.
Well, let's see what we got for the news this week. You know, we've been starting with news since the beginning of the year, and each week there's been big news in different places. And again, we got a big one that is definitely going to be news. Hey, where are we? There we are. There it is. And the big news actually, it's been a couple of weeks now. I've been hearing about this for about 2 weeks, but last week it started hitting the YouTube suggestions for me. Discord is going through some big problems right now. A lot of people, and this affects gamers. This affects, you know, streamers. Discord has become a very popular chat, kind of like your own built-in website solution.
It's a community. Yeah.
Yeah, and they have been like the de facto go-to for a lot of this, and for gamers. I mean, every gamer out there probably is using Discord to be able to talk to the people that they play with, and Discord's following what I'm seeing a lot of platforms starting to talk about. Last year we saw legislation on ID verifications on the internet, and it started with talks from Google and some of the other big platforms. They want to be able to tell when a kid's logged in, and legit reasons they want to know whether they're serving content to underage or not. But as we've seen from the legislation and from how some of these platforms are approaching it, uh, good intentions are not necessarily going to pave the solution that they're looking for. Um, Discord is seeing a mass exodus. Over the last week, I've seen hundreds of channels all saying the same thing. I'm gone. I'm done. I'm looking for Discord alternatives. And I was almost going to go with that for the video tonight, the alternatives. But I was more curious as to what's their response to these users saying, like, this is not acceptable. They're against the idea of having to verify themselves to utilize the Discord community. And I understand from both sides there why there's this friction. But I'm really curious as to how Discord's going to explain themselves in a way that these people might change their minds about leaving.
Yeah. I mean, I've used Discord with dozens of different servers with different games over the years. So, I mean, I've still got all these different connections that I never look at all. But, I should just disconnect the servers that I don't look at anymore. But I'm lazy like that.
Well, in all the time that you've used it, did you ever run across a channel or content that you felt like, this kid should not have access to this channel or this?
Well, the thing is, it's all, like you said, it's all private communities essentially. So it's not just random anybody browsing around, running across your stuff there. It's basically you invite people to the channel, to the server, I should say, and then they have access to the server. And then there are sub channels from there where it can still be regulated who can have access to what. So whether it's different, whether it's content for various reasons, or whether it's, if you have a group getting together for a group project or something, maybe only they have access to that channel. So it doesn't have to be, channels segregated specifically for age reasons, but there's tons of reasons why you would want to have access, specific channels for different reasons.
Yeah. And when it comes to the private channels and that approach, then I guess the responsibility falls on the channel holder and
correct,
and how they police their content, who they allow in. If you do have a public channel, you really should kind of follow the same kind of rules that you would if you were on television or even with YouTube. Like, there's certain things you should not do or should not say if you're going to allow public access, because you can't control who's coming.
Now, with video games, a lot of times, I mean, there is no verification. Like, I'm playing with somebody else on there, named whoever, like, who knows, right? Like, it could be anyone of any age. The main thing is that, the requirement that we would have in the groups that I would get together with would be things like, if you're in here with us, you're acting like an adult is the important thing. Like, if you can handle yourself like an adult, then you're welcome here. And, it's fine. And, whether you're on the voice chat or whether you're not, doesn't matter. You have access to the channels, and we have channels that are posted. Like, some of them are posted with a warning. Like, if there is mature content specifically, like there'd be a channel that is going to be all swearing and all, bitching about this, that, and the other thing. It might be listed as, that, so that somebody would know to steer clear of there if they were offended by that sort of thing.
Yeah. And I'm cool with kids that act like adults, but I hate adults that act like kids,
Yeah,
especially on the internet.
I mean, I act like a kid in good ways. That's different.
Yes. Well, forever young, but I'm not going to act like that.
Exactly.
So Deep Humor is going to, give us the details on Discord's response and how they're going to try to explain themselves. And as a follow-up, I wanted to include this one because Brianna Perez, she hits on certain points I really agree with here. And ever since I heard about, like, these new legislations to force platforms to verify ID, how they do it, where they're doing it specifically, and whether it's going to accomplish what they're looking for. She hits on some good points about like they're kind of going down, they're going into the wrong areas to do this. They're actually ignoring where the big problems are. And she's going to talk a little bit about her feelings on, you know, whether this can work.
One thing that one feeling that I have just on the whole thing is if you're anonymous online, it's easy. Like some people, they are anonymous, so they feel like they can say things that are, whether it's bullying or threatening or whatever, and they feel like the protection of being anonymous, protects them from that, and therefore play a platform that requires you to verify who you are. There is an accountability side to it. Like sometimes they want that so that there is, if you do something that is illegal or wrong or whatever, they're able to, crack down and actually find you and come after you. So, if you're not posting things that are like that, then there isn't really, I don't have a reason to want to be hidden from any of these sites. Like I don't care about verifying. Like I'll verify who I am and how old I am because I'm not doing anything that I care about anybody knowing who I am or how old I am.
Yeah, I think the general mindset is if I'm not doing anything wrong, then I really don't have anything to worry about, and this shouldn't bother me. But even when you're not doing something wrong, there's a fine line between privacy rights, assumption of things, and the big problem with a lot of this, like you said, if somebody comes on anonymous, they grow these digital balls sometimes, and they think they think they can say and do anything because the people aren't in front of them. But some of this, what we're going to see here, Discord's basically saying you don't necessarily have to. A lot of these users aren't going to need to verify themselves, but fine print, we're going to use AI to establish your identity, and that's the same thing that goes on over at Google. Google knows who you are no matter how you log in, which Google Chrome account you log into. They know you're coming from this house, and they eventually figure out everybody in the house, and they know who's using what. And with AI the way it is now, they're starting to assume that they're talking to this person from this location.
Yeah, and like you said, in a lot of cases, that's perfectly innocent. Like there's no problem with that, but there are situations that could come up where there is a problem, where it's serving the wrong content to the wrong person, which is the concern that you were talking about before.
Yeah, and actually with the next one here that we're going to look at, something I'm surprised we haven't talked about in the past, because this is where the IT in IT really hits the rubber in the road. Data poisoning and how too much data, especially in the case of mass surveillance. And the reason why I picked this one is we've had some discussions in the back about like, there's this kidnapping that's been going on the last couple of weeks. And, I've heard some say, well, why can't they catch this person? We've got cameras on every corner, and Alexa hears everything you say, and your iPhone hears everything you say. And there's truth to that. But the reality, when there's too much data and it's coming in from every direction, is sometimes it can really send you in the wrong direction and make assumptions about things that aren't necessarily the case. Data poisoning is something that IT admins, especially the ones that deal with databases and traffic, experience this problem.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is big data is just getting bigger and will continue to get lots bigger. So
yeah, well, especially now with AI, the data is now just like pouring in from everywhere because the AI is going and grabbing it.
Yeah, well, it's like the with money, like the interest on the interest. Like this is the the data on the data. Like there's data about the data that's being generated too. So there's all of that plus all of that.
Yep. So Addie Lamar, Freshie Channel for us, is going to give us some insight into, this obstacle when it comes to going through data in a mass surveillance way. And it's not meant to like suggest that you should utilize this in a nefarious way. It's more to recognize this is how things work.
Yeah, exactly. And also you can see where certain bottlenecks happen in the system certain times.
Yeah, yeah. And then we're going to slide over to some control MIDI controllers, but unusual MIDI controllers. You know, I love the weird stuff, and I saw this one, and I've thought for years that the mouse could actually make a musical instrument if you had the right software to utilize the way a mouse works. And this is an interesting approach here where you can actually make some music just with your mouse and a little bit of sliding things around.
Nice.
Yeah, it's Eventide is the Eventide music mouse, and production experts going to show us the features and how it sounds when you move your mouse around.
Very cool.
And then this one, um, Floyd Steinberg. It's funny because he doesn't take this super serious. Like to him, this is kind of cool. Gestures. Like imagine if you could trigger things by doing this or this, and when you do that, a MIDI control plays a sound. And I was intrigued. I like the idea of this in the right kind of situation. I could see like conducting, a MIDI orchestration with something like this.
Yeah. Well, you were talking even one time about the ring controller, or the ability to like if you lift your hand away from the keyboard, you're getting a different control, than if you are hitting the key or pushing down harder. Same idea. Like you can do things with different gestures. Even right now, your phone, if you were taking a selfie and your phone is looking at you and you put your hand up, like it'll know that you want to take the picture, right? So it recognizes that gesture already and can do things with that. So why not extend that database of things that we can do with gestures?
Yeah, and we've seen it in Zoom. Like I raise my hand and boom, there's a little hand raise in my
or you do the heart.
Yeah. See, it doesn't work for me, but it works for Ange and Jason.
Yeah. Oh, you have to make sure that the camera can see the heart, right?
Yeah, my camera's not good enough.
Yeah, maybe.
But for $35, and the cool thing with this is he's going to show you an alternate approach too. You don't necessarily got to buy this device. You could roll your own here and accomplish this.
Right. The important thing is the concept.
Yeah, yeah. And then to finish things off, we've talked about a bunch of different DAWs, and we've seen some big news with the DAWs over the last month. Reaper is the one that I keep finding myself suggesting to new musicians, ones who are like, I'm getting off of BandLab and I want to actually use my own DAW. What's a good one? Regardless of whether you're on Mac or Windows, and hell, if you are on Linux, the reason why I'm really looking at this a lot more right now, like I'm trying to wean myself off of Windows. I do not want to go with Windows 12. And the most exciting thing I've seen over the last couple of months, we saw a little of that last week with the controller, the Steam Deck that this guy got to. He ran Reaper using Windows plugins on a Linux platform, and up until recently, that was kind of impossible without latency. But the emulation that's going on in Linux now is getting so good. We're moving away from Wine, and they're starting to get emulation that's almost native. In some cases, some of this runs better under Linux with a lightweight DAW like Reaper than it does under the Windows machine. So the one thing that has kept me from going Linux with Reaper is the VST plugins. They're made for Windows and they're made for Mac. They're not made for Linux. The only way you can get them over there is to go through this emulation layer.
Yep. And that's the trick.
And as far as the choice of DAW, on the Linux side, you don't have the same options that you do. Mac, it's Logic or Pro Tools for me. Windows, Cakewalk, Cubase, Reaper. Yes, Pro Tools is on the Windows side, but I would never get a Windows machine to run Pro Tools. I would get a Mac if I'm going to do Pro Tools. It's just so much better over there. But in the case of Reaper, it's seamless across all the operating systems. The plugins is the only difference.
Yeah, and that's the trick. Is for a lot of people, that's a complete game changer. Like, whether you can use the plugins or not makes the big difference.
The reason why I haven't converted to Reaper yet was because I needed to get over this last hump, and what we've seen in the last couple of weeks, it's very possible. Mad Cracker came in last night and let me know on the chat that he got his Chromebook to multi-boot. He put Linux on his Chromebook. He got Reaper working on it. You're a champ, Cracker.
Nice. Well done.
Did you ever know that you're my hero?
Very cool.
Yeah, well, hearing, Chromebooks, they're very cost efficient. They could be useful machines, but I don't really want to run Chrome. Running Linux under it, especially if I can bring in software like this to use with it, for the price that you get those for, I mean, you can get a decent little music machine that way.
Sure.
So
not a bad way to do it.
URM Academy is going to give us the compelling reason why Reaper is taking over the industry. I really like that he was not a Reaper guy, and he's been at it for decades. And like me, he went to certain DAWs in the 2000s because of their offerings. But in the last 4 or 5 years, Reaper has kind of taken over in a lot of music making, especially in the metal music side. And he's a metalhead, just like our resident Jason.
Yep.
His compelling reasons for going in this direction is the workflow is just so much easier and productive.
Exactly. And you see somebody who's really familiar with the DAW just kind of cranking through their project. I mean, it looks very fast, very intuitive. And once you get down what you're trying to do, you should be able to fly through it pretty easily.
Yeah. Yeah. The biggest selling point for me over the last couple of years is watching Jason.
Exactly.
His workflow with it, it's like, I can't believe he did that fast.
Yep, exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I want to speed up my workflow and not compromise on anything.
Exactly.
So to get started, let's see what's up with this Discord situation. I mean, some of you may have already gone and seen the news, and you might have even gotten a message on your Discord saying like, hey, we need you to verify for these channels that you're accessing on Discord. You might be wondering why. My biggest question is actually why now? Why didn't you do this years ago? I mean, I think the momentum that's going on here, it's not just a Discord thing. It's the entire internet seems to be going down this road.
Yeah. And again, there are reasons to not allow anonymity. I mean, like you said, people, when they're anonymous, they act differently than they would if everyone knows who they are. And it doesn't mean that you can't have, another alias or whatever online. You could have a character name that you have an account for, and that character speaks, online. And, that doesn't necessarily mean it links back to you. But if that character says something that does need to be tracked down by law enforcement, they should have a way of getting to where you are. And that's where I see a good reason for that. Like, it doesn't have to show my full name and address to everybody who's out there, but the platform should know who I am in order to be able to enforce. That's what I'm talking about.
You're right. And here's the biggest counter argument, that the people who don't want to do this they don't trust Discord with their private information.
Sure.
If I got to send a copy of my license and I've got to do these things to verify myself, and they're going to store it on their servers, Discord's already been hacked a bunch of times. Data breaches, private information has been stolen from their servers numerous times.
To me, though,
So
the thing is that all that information, like you talked about before, Google knows everything about everything already.
well,
So like none of the information
even
that you're talking about
Google,
isn't out there. You know, even Google will get hacked. Is what I'm saying.
e-
Like that
even
information.
Google will your privacy information that hey, I trust Google as a company to possibly protect my data, but there's no guarantees.
Right.
I
I'm just
would
saying that
trust
there's
Google more than I would trust Discord with my picture of my license.
yes, but at the same time, my point is that the idea of private data is almost a silly idea at this point. Like there's really no such thing as privacy. I mean, everything is out there, everything is known. So
Yeah,
it's
but
kind of like there are things you don't want to broadcast for sure. Like you
we
don't want to
can't
broadcast your social security number, your license number, things like that. But it's not like people couldn't find out if they wanted to.
we can't just throw our hands up and say surrender because yes, there's always a way things can get compromised. We have to at least take some stands on when you do your taxes every year, you have to send sensitive information and all these things, especially now over the internet.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that the tunnel you're using and the places you're sending it to, that data goes from your computer to that server and nowheres else, and nothing intercepts it in between.
Yep.
Do
Exactly. And that's the thing
you
is
trust Discord to do that?
that's the
I'm
question
on the
is
fence.
they haven't asked me for my license yet, and I don't know if they're going to. Like they might already know that I am who I am because they've already had other ways of tracking that information down. I have no idea. It hasn't asked me, and I've had Discord for many years now, so I don't know if this is a new change where it's going to ask me. If it does ask me, and I do need to send a copy of my license, I don't think I would have a problem with that. But
Unless you're accessing channels where they feel age identity is necessary, if you're accessing channels or content that they feel they need to verify you, then you're going to see that pop up.
and that's the thing
If
is again, most of what
if
I've
your
seen with
channels if your channels are just game channels and nothing's really going on those channels, you're probably not going to see this. But in the disclaimer now, you do want to understand they're going to use AI to figure out your age. And I know it sounds like innocent, but at the same time, if Discord does it and then this website does it, this platform does it, is this the direction we want to go?
well, again, I mean, I've never had a problem with me, the person being, linked with any persona that I have online because everything that I do online, I wouldn't say, I wouldn't say anything to somebody online that I wouldn't say to them face to face. And,
Yeah.
even if I don't know who they are, it doesn't matter. I'm a respectful person and I can respect other people's opinions. We don't have to agree, but we can disagree respectfully. There's ways to do things.
Well, and I'm a lot like you there. I feel like, hey, I'm not doing anything wrong. So, I only care about this from the privacy side. I only
Mhm.
care from the direction side. Like, how is this going to affect? How's this going to affect users? How's this going to affect the internet? What kind of precedents get set doing things these ways? I'm not worried about them finding something on me, but I'm concerned with their approaches they're taking because a company really has to prove themselves responsible when it comes to your private data. In the past, it was banks that asked you for that kind of verification, poker sites, PayPal, Coinbase. Those were legitimate sites to say, we need to verify you. We're dealing with money. Somebody could hack your account. Those platforms took some responsibility for asking for that kind of information, and they did it as secure as possible. Now we're going from banks and financial institutes asking you for this to chat servers.
And again,
It's
it's
slippery slope we're going down here.
you could say it's slippery slope, but we could also say that it's one of those things where the momentum, as you were saying, was going more towards linking a person and their digital identity, just because everything is more and more on the internet, and more of your life is on the internet. Less and less of whatever there is about your life is private. I mean, there's almost nothing that the internet doesn't know about your life anyway. Like you were saying, they're going to use AI to figure out who you are. They can figure out who you are, what house you're in, and what you buy, what you browse on, I mean, they know everything about you. So why we're so concerned about sending one piece of information in, to me, is a little bit odd, but that's just me.
It's not just the internet. Do you have a real ID or just a license?
I believe it's the real ID. I'm not even sure. I think I
You
got the
have
new
a-
one. I got the new one just a couple of years ago. I have a passport, but it's expired. So I think I was able to use a passport as additional points of ID, even if it's expired, for getting the real ID, if that's what happened.
And I had to renew my license last week, and I had to decide whether I was going to get the real ID and spend $85 to renew or $65 for the license. And once I found out the real ID is not going to help me to go to Canada when I go to visit my parents, I still need a passport to cross the Canadian border. And as far as flying around, yes, there was a moment where you needed to have a real ID, but they pulled back on that, and you pay an extra $35 on your flight now for verification. But in the future, if something like the real ID helps you to not have to go through this crap on Discord or something else, because your real ID you can link and associate in a way where you don't have to send it over the internet to do your verification process, then maybe there could be some benefit there to having something like that. Maybe you can avoid your online verification process if you do have something that can make it easier for you offline.
Let's see what they say.
I'm hoping that they come up with better solutions than just, especially what they're asking here is kids to verify. And it's one thing to ask adults to do it, or parents to do it for the kids, but to have the kids sending their personal information, that's a no-no on my book.
Oh, right. And what kind of personal information is the kid going to have? I mean, kids don't always have a license or an ID or a student ID or anything that's going to help Discord, know who they are. So, I mean, we'll have to see what they say about the approach.
In the old days, they assumed if you had a credit card number that you're 18 or older, and even that's not the case anymore. So it's going to be an interesting time to live in. This year, we are definitely going down this verification road. The internet's changing in 2026.
Yep.
So at Deep Humor is the one who actually, of the hundreds of videos that I came across about like all the pissed off people like, fuck you, Discord, I'm out of here. Deep Humor actually did give me the video I was looking for. The response to Discord after hearing, like, I want to say tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of users who said, no, Discord, I am going to go somewhere else if you do this. And this is essentially their response after the reaction.
Alrighty, let's see.
So Discord made ID age verification a requirement globally, and to say that they got some backlash for it would be like saying that Frieza doesn't really like Sans. It would be the understatement of the year, and Discord actually responded to all of the hate by writing an actual book about everything that they're going to be doing and trying to clear all of our doubts and everything like that. And to say that the response is bad is once again another very big understatement. So let's go over it together and see what they say. We've seen some questions about our age assurance update. We want to share more clarity. We know how important these changes are to our community. Here's what we want you to know. Discord is not requiring everyone to complete a face scan or upload an ID to use Discord. Yes, that is true. You can still use Discord without giving an ID, but you are going to be losing a laundry list of features, and AI is going to actually be looking at your account to try to verify your age based on your activity. These are things that are confirmed. Discord confirmed them themselves. So when they say, yeah, you don't have to give us your ID, they're basically saying, yeah, it's all good though. You're just going to lose all these random features and we're going to spy on you using AI. So no big deal. You don't have to, but pretty much the platform will be unusable if you don't. It's such a cop-out answer. But anyways, the vast majority of people can continue using Discord exactly as they do today without ever being asked to confirm their age. Again, they leave out the fact that they are going to be using AI to determine your age if you don't hand over an ID. You need to be an adult to access age-restricted experiences such as age-restricted servers and channels or to modify certain safety settings. For the majority of adult users, we will be able to confirm your age group using information we already have. We use age prediction to determine with high confidence, this is bullshit by the way, when a user is an adult. This allows many adults to access age-appropriate features without completing an explicit age check. So once again, I actually went over this in my last Discord video of the age prediction model that they're talking about. So essentially, they're going to be doing the exact same thing as YouTube. When YouTube made age verification a requirement on their platform too, they also said that they're going to be using AI to determine the age of their users. However, it gets the age of their users wrong all the time. Here's an example of somebody who literally joined YouTube in November of 2006, meaning their account is 19 years old, soon to be 20 years old, and they still got marked as under 18. The account itself is older than 18, but they think the person using the account is under 18. Makes 0 sense. And as we've talked about before, and as you guys know, YouTube has a huge hard-on for AI, so I'm sure they have the best AI systems out there. Discord is probably going to be using something similar, meaning it will be wrong. And also just the idea of some AI system spying on you when you're going on Discord rooms or playing certain games and stuff like that, and that's what's going to be used to determine your age. That doesn't give me a lot of mental clarity of like whether I want to keep using Discord or not. If anything, that makes me want to leave the platform. When additional confirmation is required, we offer multiple privacy-forward options through trusted partners. Oh, really? Yeah, those same trusted partners that got everything leaked, right? I don't know if they think that we're like Dory from Finding Nemo or something where we have like short-term memory loss, but we still remember the 70,000 government ID photos getting hacked by your third-party vendor that you claim is super trusted, right? Like, we know that happened. That's not something that we all forgot about. That's one. And another thing is, it's likely a lot more than 70,000. I've talked about this in other videos before. It's likely way more than that, but Discord only disclosed 70,000 because they knew saying a higher number, or what it actually is, would make them look really, really bad. Discord should like do stand-up comedy because this is going to be where the comedy show starts. Facial scans never leave your device. Discord and our vendor partners never receive it. Really? Oh my God. You guys should really do stand-up comedy. Then how the hell did this happen? Can you explain how this happened? If the vendors don't keep the photos, how was there a data breach from the vendor getting hacked? That doesn't even make any sense. What are the point of the vendors then? IDs are used to get your age only and then deleted. Once again, refer back to my previous tweet. This is bullshit. How the hell would the IDs get leaked if they were deleted to begin with? Discord only receives your age. That's it. Your identity is never associated with your account. Hate to be a broken record here, but look. What are they talking about, man? We hope this helps to clarify some of your questions. This didn't help clarify shit. To be honest, this made me even more worried about having a Discord account. This work is important because building a safer Discord requires a thoughtful approach, blah, blah, blah. So let's go over to the FAQ, frequently asked questions. Will I need to age assure to continue using Discord? And then they say, no, you don't have to. You can still use Discord. But once again, as we went over, you can't use a lot of features on Discord. So if you want to use Discord normally, yeah, you kind of do have to do it. When do I need to go through age assurance? You must be a confirmed adult to access age-restricted content, experiences, whatever. And they basically say, in the minority of cases where we cannot confirm you as an adult, you need to access age-restricted areas and settings, then you will be asked to go through additional steps. So sometimes you could do a facial age estimation or send them your ID, and they will still ask you for more information. Yes, you handing over an ID or doing their, quote, super accurate AI age estimation, which we all know is bullshit. Dude, I've seen so many videos of people using like animated little characters to do their age verification like this. I've seen people use Gmod to verify their ages on Discord and it would actually work. Here's another example of somebody, I believe this is another Gmod character and they're using it and tilting their heads around it. But hey, those super accurate AI age estimation systems, right? They definitely would see it as fraudulent, right? Oh, hold on. Yep, there you go. You got access. You guys get the idea. Their whole AI age facial scan shit, it's just crap. It doesn't work. We only get your age from ID verification process and an estimated age range from facial age estimation. We use this information for safety purposes. We will not use your age information to target you with advertisements. We don't sell your data. Sure, buddy, sure. And here's another thing that's funny over here. The facial age estimation technology runs entirely on your device in real time when you're performing the verification. That means the facial scans will never leave your device. Vendors never get it. Well, that's the exact same thing you said about the IDs. And then that shit got leaked. So I don't trust a single word that Discord says. They're trying to clarify that these vendors were not involved in the September 2025 data breach of our customer service agent, whatever. But again, I don't trust a single word that they say because they themselves said after the IDs are used to verify your age, they are deleted. If they are deleted, how could they have gotten leaked? It is all bullshit. They are lying. And Discord once again vehemently says, oh, we only get your age from your ID and that's it. Your identity is never associated with your account. And they're just yapping and saying a bunch of crap, right? But yeah, this is all bullshit. And Schlepp even made a tweet about this saying, throwback to when Discord allowed Roblox child sex communities to gain hundreds of thousands of users and did absolutely nothing to moderate them. They did a partnership with Roblox, basically two of the worst companies in the world partnering together, and it resulted in a lot of kids getting access to a lot of very sexual games. So that's my thoughts on it, but I also did see this tweet. Shout out to this person over here. They made a lot of great points. This post does not address who the partners are that handle your data, whether those partners may or may not store your data, how this rollout will differ from the rollout last year that resulted in a 2 million ID leak. Again, that sounds about right. I mean, that sounds like way more accurate than the whole 70,000 IDs that Discord says. What they plan to do with the data that they collect, they say it's about protecting kids, ignore the fact that this will explicitly point out who the kids are and where they are, allowing easier and faster access to children for predators. This is the exact same problem that Roblox had. The whole Roblox age verification thing did the exact same thing, where now you know exactly how old certain users are, and you can use one of the many ways to circumvent the terrible AI age verification facial scans that they have, get yourself marked as 13, and now you know that this kid is actually 13. They have not spoken on what the AI does, what the data it collects, and I can answer that question. They're going to be selling it to the AI companies so they can train their models off of the video selfies from all these kids. They have not stated what their partners do with the data. They have also not stated or detailed any steps that they are taking to ensure that those who intended to abuse the system to gain access to minors are detected and punished. They have also not stated whether or not the AI built to create a biometric portfolio on you will stop listening after it has done so, meaning from implementation on every keystroke you send to Discord is likely being tracked and audited by third parties with no regulations. And that is the most concerning part about this whole update, the whole part where Discord's like, yeah, we're going to use AI to determine your age by your activity, right? As this person says, when is that actually going to stop? Are they going to stop doing that after they verify that you're over 18? When did they start doing that? Has that been a thing for years? Or did you guys just add that? I mean, I have so many questions and it makes me feel really weird that AI is tracking everything that we all do on Discord. It's just really, really weird and creepy. And again, you guys would not believe how many people are defending Discord saying, oh, those scans are getting deleted. They don't see that scan, blah, blah, blah. It's like, do you guys not remember the data breach that happened just a few months ago? Stop being so naive, man. Don't trust these types of companies. It's all about money. This is a business at the end of the day, and they are going to be able to make a lot of money off of our biometric data. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on the situation in the comments. This is Discord's response, and in my opinion, it's pretty bad. Please leave a like in the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe for more. See ya.
Yep. That's the way it goes.
Oh, we got flipped.
All better.
So he's kind of a glass half empty kind of guy here.
And I'm more of the glass half full guy, like you were saying. Yeah.
I don't blame him for his concerns. And I'm not saying the glass is half empty or half full. I think we're halfway through like this process that we're going to see more of.
Yeah. And again, the whole associating your digital footprint with your physical footprint is something that is just, going to be more of a thing going forward. It's you're being tracked, but you're being tracked for multiple reasons, that some that are good, some that are bad, but there's no not getting tracked really at this point.
Yes, you're right. It's unavoidable. But how do you feel about the idea of like biometrical portfolios where AI is watching what you do on Discord, watching what you do on Google, watching what you do everywhere? And if it's taking facial scans, because these cameras don't turn off unless you tape them, if you're getting a biometrical portfolio in the future being generated, it's possible everything about you, fingerprints, anything that they could use to identify you in the future can and will be used, hopefully not against you.
And that's the thing is, the fact that we're talking about it, and the fact that, we're talking about if they're going to start doing these things are already done. Like that it's not like they're starting to, like they're starting to talk about it, but these things, like AIs have been watching everything all along. The algorithms that feed you your YouTube content for years have been watching every keystroke that you do, to like when you're searching to see what they can feed you next. I mean, all of these things, like we're talking about it more now, but to see it as like this big change that's coming up is not really it at all. Like it's all been happening. It's just that we're more talking about the direction that it's going in. And a
Most
lot of people
people
don't
have
like it.
noticed. Most people have noticed that if they search for something or reference something, in some cases, literally just say something out loud, and then all of a sudden, Google ads are targeting
Oh yeah.
something you said. So most people are aware that they are being watched.
Well, not only that, but some people have actually found out that they were pregnant by all of a sudden they're getting ads popping up for like cribs and things because
Oh,
the internet knew.
Did you get a sneak peek at the data poisoning video?
Is that where we're going?
Well, yeah, you're not far off there. This is what we're talking about. How the assumptions and the data collecting. It's like when they say Google knows you better than you know yourself.
Yeah.
They're not bullshitting at this point.
Exactly. And that's the thing is, the internet and the algorithms really do know you, whether you're an active searcher or whether you're very passive in your content and you just click on things that you like when they come to you. Still, it knows what you looked at, what you didn't look at, what you spent time on screen, what you scrolled right past. I mean, it knows all of that and it factors all of that in.
And in the case of what he was talking about, where a Google account that's been active for 19 years and Google wasn't sure that the person using it is actually the person who created that account. If that AI is looking at user habits and what the user does, what the user says, where the user goes, they can pretty much establish that this is not the person who was originally using this account. This activity is different. Maybe there's a kid logging into their parents' account on Windows and using their Chrome, and now that account is confused because it doesn't know whether it's dealing with the child or the parent.
And that's part of the thing is that how much of that responsibility should be the internet's responsibility to determine the age of whoever's using the device. It should really be the household's responsibility to make sure the child doesn't have access to a computer that has access to the internet unrestricted. A child should have a machine that is restricted in ways that are appropriate, right?
I absolutely agree. Accountability starts at home. It starts with the parents. And I wish more parents were more technically responsible. These days, but
because they have to ask the kids for help on how to, whether it's, it used to be to set the time on the VCR or whatever, but it's, they need help with their phone. They need help with this. If they needed help with a password, like they're not going to be locking their kids out of a system. The kids are going to be locking them out.
Yeah, that's the irony of today's situation. Technology moves so fast that we do have a generation of adults who had kids, didn't keep up with the technology, and the kids grew into the technology faster than the adults did.
Pro tip, if you go over to the Wi-Fi router and you just unplug the power for a second, the family comes running.
Oh yeah.
You need a family meeting, unplug that Wi-Fi router and you'll have everyone's attention immediately.
That's the quickest way to get everybody yelling in the house.
They'll be yelling, but you'll have their attention.
Well, I think this is something we're going to see more and more of over the next couple of months. This is another topic that's not going away anytime soon.
Exactly. And that's why, to me, it's again, embracing the fact that, your digital ID and your physical ID are going to be linked, and it's just kind of a fact of life, and going forward with it that way makes it easier to me. And, again, I see that there are legitimate concerns that some people have, but to me, the concerns don't apply to my situation. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And I understand that. Honestly, not a big deal to me either. My niece's nephew, kids using things. My sister's two kids, how they deal with the internet. It's more indirectly a concern for me.
Yeah. And again, to me, so much of that comes down to there should be so much of a lockdown from a parental standpoint to the machines, to everything else. Like the kid doesn't get a device that has unfettered access, and anything that the kid's doing, the parent should know something about.
I almost started an IT business back in the early 2000s to administer for parents, because getting corporate work and company security and all of that, it was everywhere.
Mhm.
But I was seeing parents, even my brother actually had me go multiple times to his house to lock down the router,
Yep.
set up bandwidth allocation, be able to see all traffic. He wanted to know anything going out or in the router.
Absolutely. And that's
And,
legitimate concerns. And it's good that he had access to someone who can set that up for him because
yeah,
90, how many percent of parents don't know that or wouldn't have access to that information?
not all parents are going to be able to monitor and keep track of everything going on in that modem, but with some good software solutions and at least somebody you can call if necessary, you can figure out like what your kids are doing on the internet.
There's also something that, something about having a relationship with the child where you can actually talk to them about the stuff that they access and
Yeah.
have meaningful conversations about ways that they should and shouldn't use the internet. I mean, I'm not a parent. I've never been a parent. I have no kids. I was an uncle. I am an uncle. So I have a niece and a nephew, and I was part of raising them. So I understand, but I was not the responsible party for raising the children. But these kids, they almost never use the internet. They almost never watch TV. Like they were big readers and, they would do reading, they would do sports, they would do music. Like they had all these like they were more like us as kids, as opposed to kids now where they're just, sitting in their devices and staring at the TV screens. I mean, these kids had the least screen time of any kids I've ever seen.
Yeah, yeah. In the case of when I had to do that for Rick, the girls were 11 and 13, and they were old enough to be able to get told, Uncle Tony's coming. He's setting this up. We know what you're doing on the internet. Not that they were doing anything wrong. For him, it was more of a deterrent. It was
Right.
to say, like, you need to understand we're in charge of this modem, we're in charge of this connection, and we're still in charge of you. And we know what you're doing under this household.
Yep. My roof, my rules, that whole thing. I mean, I get it. Sure.
Same with the phones. Like
Yep.
they did know how to check on the phones, everything they did. So, if you got smart kids and you do have that good communication with them, you don't have to be intimidating about it. You just want to let them know that I can watch. I'm not necessarily going to watch everything you do, but I can. And if you really aren't sure that you're doing something right or wrong, come talk to me about it. Don't
Right.
try to hide it.
Right. Exactly. I mean, it's important. Like the whole thing, the whole open communication, the whole showing that you're interested in what they're doing, you're interested in, how they're doing it, all that kind of stuff. Like it all helps when, making sure to make that connection. But again,
Yeah.
if the kids are already trying to hide stuff from you and you're already overbearing about what you're talking to them about, you're making it worse sometimes if you
Yeah,
start fighting about stuff like that.
you don't want to be the overbearing parent. You just want to be the responsible one. And it's good to give kids a little bit of freedom. But we are talking about the internet, and the internet comes at you just as much as you go at it. And I'm more concerned at what the internet's going to throw at the kid than what the kid's actually going to go and find on their own.
Exactly. And that's why the important thing, like they don't understand that it's, when we say it's for their protection, like they hear that all the time. They hate that kids, they hate to hear that, oh, it's for your protection. It's for your own good. It's because we say so, whatever. Like they hate all of those answers. But at the same time, to tell them that, it's less about what you're doing on the internet, but more about, like you said, what the internet is going to send your way based on what you do. Because the internet is assuming what what your age is or what you want to see or what you're looking for. And it may get that very wrong and, send you content that you don't want.
Yeah, oh, it will. Be glad we're not back in the 90s, because them pop-ups, man, I saw things I can never unsee.
Oh, and what flash text on the wall of the website? Yeah, good times.
Yeah, some of them animated GIFs.
Yeah. Oh, terrible.
At Deep Humor, great topic here, and videos on topical topics, a freshy channel for us.
Nice.
This was the Discord video I wanted to see. I wanted to see what their response was, and I do feel like him, like skeptical. I know when you put out your frequently asked questions, like the way they did, they're trying to just blanket answer this. They're gonna have to get more specific in order to appease some of us.
Now, for some of it, like the one where he was talking about the 70,000 leak from before and how the policy that they're looking at, or the frequently asked questions, directly says we don't keep the data. I mean, that could have been a policy change since then, like the way I look at it. Like it could be that was a response to the leak is why they're putting that in there, and they've changed their policy now. But it could also be that was their policy all along and they just don't apply to it or don't abide by it.
Or they were like, oops, we did have this policy, but it didn't work. So
it was on page 7 and page 7 was stuck to page 8. So we didn't see it.
Yeah. and like he said, 70,000 was a low ball estimate because no company wants to admit when they do have a breach. They always go down on the estimate,
or it's more that they can confirm that these were the ones that were lost, but it could have been a whole lot more, but we know this many were lost.
Realistically, it's more likely double to quadruple, because a lot of times when this is the case, it is at least double to quadruple.
Or 10 times. I mean,
in
this
case,
100 times almost of what we saw. If it was going to be 2 million, that's a lot of time.
Don't get me started on the Yahoo hack that happened over a decade ago.
I won't.
So, at Deep Humor, great coverage on that. And we're going to go to Brenna Perez here. This is kind of a addendum and some counter concerns coming from a different approach on, like, her feelings are that they're not trying to fix this problem in the right place. I think she does understand, what they're trying to fix, why they're trying to fix it. But I really agree with her that, like, they're kind of going down the wrong rabbit hole, and they're taking the wrong approach here, because if they're really concerned about what they say they're concerned about, they wouldn't be taking this approach, and they would be focused on other parts of Discord than the parts that they're focused on.
Mm-hmm.
And for anybody out there, I know you like Minecraft and Roblox and some of these areas of the internet. That's where the discussion really needs to start to open up a little more, because that's where the big problems are actually happening, and it's not being addressed. A lot of it is being ignored. Parents see that screen, the game looks innocent. They think there must not be anything going on here. They're just playing Legos on screen. But the adults that are playing with those kids on there, some of them are bad actors. And how you verify the good actors versus the bad ones, not sure what the ultimate solution is going to be, but I bet you AI is going to be watching everything.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, again, that's a given. Like, AI already is watching everything, so we should accept that for sure.
Yep. So at Perez Brenna is going to show us. She's going to address this age verification. She believes it's a big tech lie, and I'm kind of in her boat here. The legislation and the laws say that they're doing it for the children. There's more going on there. And it's really going to depend on who's doing the enforcing, and the platforms. Real motivations might not be necessarily what they say they're doing it for.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see what Brenna thinks about this age verification.
The wildest part about tech companies trying to convince us that ID and facial scans are about age verification and safety is that the adult spaces of the internet isn't where predators are finding minors. They're finding them in the age-appropriate areas of the internet, like Roblox, or in the case of Discord, which just got into some hot water this week, and other platforms like Discord in the non-age restricted areas. In case you missed it, Discord announced this week that it was going to do what a bunch of tech companies are itching to, which is basically require its users to scan their IDs and faces in order to verify their age. They've since kind of backtracked and said, well, no. The vast majority of users won't have to do either of those things because the vast majority of users do not access age-restricted Discords and forums. This is just for the people that do. Okay, so I want to know why. Why? How does that keep younger users safe? The targeting tends to happen in their spaces, the ones that are still open and don't require age verification. Sure, some of the more problematic stuff probably doesn't happen on those more open servers. It can happen more in private DMs, etc. But that's after the initial meeting. So are companies like Discord going to require age verification for private DMs and messages? Like, you see how this doesn't solve the problem that they're claiming they're trying to solve? They're just selling us this idea that this is a solution to that problem instead of what it actually is, which is just an excuse to collect even more data. And of course, put it at insane risk of data leaks. Between this and the Section 230 thing and the Ring, dog finding dragnet, we're being sold so many lies, so many invitations to give up even more of one of the most valuable parts of ourselves, our data, second only to our labor, all under the guise of it being a solution to what the people on top clearly don't care about. Come on. Just don't fall for it.
Oh, I'd have a fun conversation with her.
Oh, yeah.
I do agree with her that right now it's providing a false sense of security. Like, we're addressing this. We're doing what we can. I'm not sure that they're doing what they can. I'm not sure what their motivations totally are. I do suspect, like her, that some of it is a data grab. It's an excuse to just chop that little bit of privacy left that we have had down to nothing, all in the name of protecting the children, which none of this is actually going to do.
Yeah. And that's the basic, again, coming back to the point about the parents need to be responsible for what the kids are accessing online. If, again, in the situation where if there is inappropriate, communication between somebody and a child somewhere, the parent should know about it in some way. And how is that going to happen? If the child, again, the whole conversation comes back to the parents to me. Like, the parents have to be involved in what the kids are doing online, and there have to be rules involved in all of that.
I'll give you an example of in Connecticut, back in the 90s, they put out a law that if a kid went and had a party and illegal things happened at that party, drinking or drugs or anything, they made a law that made the parents responsible for anything that happened in that house, regardless of whether it was the kid. The parents weren't even home. The parents were gone. If the kid had that party at that house, parents could be held accountable and possibly go to jail. I think there were even a couple of cases where it got that far.
Sure.
That definitely got a lot of parents starting to think twice about letting their kids just kind of do whatever and not paying attention because your property is on the line. Now, we're talking property in the sense of computers in a house, but if a kid does something on a computer in an adult's house, are we going to reach a point where we hold the adults responsible for what they allow their kids to do on those computers? Because they can technically break the law just like they could if they had a keg party at their house.
Yeah. And again, kids could hack into whatever from any computer. There are a lot of kids out there who have a lot of technical ability that are far surpassing their parents' technical ability. So it is a very difficult question. If the kids want to access stuff, they will find a way to access the stuff. That's the thing. So it's
or
important
if,
to understand
or
what
if
they're
the
trying to access
kids,
and why.
or if the kids do something wrong, that digital balls kid who acts like he can say anything he wants online, and online comes back and says, "Hey, we know it's your kid from this house," and they're harassing people online. And nowadays, that's becoming laws that some places are enforcing. So if you can't go after that 14-year-old kid, are you going to go after the parents who don't monitor enough?
Well, again, the 14-year-old kid, if the 14-year-old kid is breaking adult laws online, then I mean, yeah,
the parents should at least know.
The parents should at least know, but also there should be repercussions. I mean, there should definitely be consequences. You know, whether it's the kid doesn't get access to the internet anymore, you know, not ankle bracelet time or whatever. But you know, I mean, there's definitely things that need to be looked at for sure.
If kids understood that if they were to cause trouble like that and actually get the law involved, it's happened in the past where like they have taken internet rights from young adults and kids because they broke the law. And Kevin Mitnick's a great example of that. Like a hacker who, and we can debate on like his hacking and what he did, but when he did get caught for it, he couldn't get back on the internet for over a decade. He had to go to jail. If kids do understand there could be repercussions, you're underage, so we can't punish you directly like your parent can. But if they decide like this household shouldn't have internet because that kid's uncontrollable.
See, it really does, again, it kind of puts an extra layer in between parents and their kids, in terms of in that situation, you've got the kids that are trying to do whatever hacking and what have you, if they come after the parents, it's not going to stop the kids. Like if you tell the kids, oh, we're going to come take your parents away if you do something bad, I mean, that's going to be a deterrent to them. I mean, you're going to tell them, oh, well, and you're not going to be able to ever use a computer again. I mean, again, it's trying to put a wedge essentially between the parents and the kids. You're trying to tell the parents to tell the kid that if he messes up, that we're going to make them pay. And there's no good way to really get that across. And doing an example, like you said, where you take some parents away, did that make the kid's life better? Really?
Not necessarily. Yeah. And if a parent, let's say, a kid gets bad grades or does something now, a lot of parents will take the phone away. No game time.
You're grounded. I mean, those
TV
words still
time.
exist,
Yeah, but the reality of it, if the kid sneaks off on a different device and depending on the age you're dealing with and the situation you're dealing with, you need to be able to have some leverage. And at the parent level, they need to have some leverage over the kid. They can't feel like the kid's in charge. And if it does actually reach like a legal activity where the cops are knocking on the door because of something your kid did on the internet, yeah, I might take more than your phone away if I have to deal with that.
Yeah. And again, the whole, destroying the kid's whole family life by taking the parents away to jail, I don't see that as a good answer. I mean,
it would have to be something extremely severe. And I mean, there's no precedence that I can think of at this point that, internet wise, they went after the parents for something a kid did.
See, I would sooner in that case, if the kid, if a kid was 14 and they were, broke adult laws online, then the kid should be charged as an adult, in my opinion. But I mean, the sentencing is a different story. Like, home arrest, whatever. There could be ways to get around that, but they should definitely face consequences.
You've seen parents take accountability in that way in the case of things like the kid stole the car, killed somebody, and at that point they go after the parent for not securing the car. A gun, access to a gun in a household, where can you really blame the kid if the gun wasn't in a safe and the adult didn't do their due diligence to make sure that "Hey, I got a 14-year-old and he's a little rambunctious. Make sure that you uh, lock away these things and don't get easy access to car keys." And um, there has been cases where, not on the internet, but just in general, kids fucking up and parents having to take the fall.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's rare and far, few and far between for those cases
Uh, it
because
takes it, ta- it takes extreme cases. I
yeah,
mean,
of
somebody
course,
has to die or something.
yeah. I mean, it has to be something of that magnitude for sure.
Yeah. And crazy as it sounds, when it comes to the internet, there are some lawsuits going on right now in California where a mother is trying to sue Facebook and a couple of other platforms because she blames the platforms for her daughter, you know, taking herself out. And I sympathize, but at the same time, saying that's the platform that caused it and not the bullies that were on the platform doing these things is misdirecting blame.
Yeah, and I
And
mean,
if it turns
bullying
out
online
your
is one of those
kid,
things.
if it
Yeah,
turns out it's your kid who was the one doing that bullying, say on Facebook, who pushed another kid to extremes, thankfully it doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen.
yeah, tragedy.
And the poor parents that would be in a situation like that, eh, you know how parents can be when it comes, it's not my kid, it's not, they're not the problem, you're the problem. Some parents are in denial sometimes in those cases, and they wouldn't even necessarily know that their kid's an online bully.
Yeah, and that comes back to knowing what your kids are up to and having a good relationship with your kids.
Yeah. And if the parents aren't going to be watching, at Perez Brenna for that one, and to go into our next one, because you kind of let in with like, my daughter's pregnant. What? Um, this does happen, and Addie Lamar brings up a video here about, and she's got a cybersecurity business. This is where the IT really comes into our title. She covers a lot of this in her tech world, and in the case of data poisoning, uh, with surveillance and all of that, it's very likely if your kid is a bully in the future, you might have Facebook coming and telling you as a parent that, hey, we see this because we've got AI watching everything that everybody types and posts. And AI says your kid's a bully because look at these posts. Look at this activity. Um, some parents may get a rude awakening in the future as AI finds out more about their kids than they know about them.
And they'll have to have some conversations about how you talk to people respectfully, and you don't grow those online balls like you were talking about and start mouthing off to random strangers.
You really got to start young nowadays to get them to be responsible. 5, 6 years old, today's kid is already on a tablet, and probably going to the PC at that point. You got to start setting that kind of responsibility and not teaching at that age. You can't be going at 14, 15 and trying to establish these morals.
No.
It's too late at that point.
Yeah. Again, yeah. Yeah. So much comes back to parenting. I mean, again, I see so much of the problems that people talk about with kids today. And I look at the kids that I've seen in my life grow up, and none of them have any of those issues because they had plenty of people around just, interested in their growing up and interested in their, it takes a village to raise a child, is I guess the point. And
Yeah.
a lot of children didn't have that village raising them.
Well, and they didn't have the same temptations, the same technology. Social media has changed everything from when we were kids.
Yeah.
Today's kids deal with a lot more than I thought. I dealt with a lot as a kid. Shit.
But
This
as you were
is
mentioning, like that call from Facebook or that notification from Facebook coming to parents that are, the rude awakening that the kid's a bully. I mean, people used to get that call back when we were kids, but it would be the call from the vice principal telling them, how he was, on the playground, this and that and the other thing. So it's basically just the digital version of that, just basically saying someone is watching and there should be some repercussions if people are acting badly towards others.
well, and Meta and Google have both made effort to identify the kids that are on these platforms. And in the case of Meta, like they do know the parent to the kid. If the parent's on Facebook and the kid's on Facebook and the parent did things properly, the parent can supervise the kid's Facebook use, and Facebook can be the principal in that case.
Yeah. The monitor, essentially.
Yeah. Hopefully they're cooler than the principal I had in high school.
We had some cool ones.
So Addie is gonna go into this data poisoning, and I agree with her that this is a fatal flaw in mass surveillance. I understand why we are living in a mass surveillance world. No big surprise that like the cheaper it gets and the easier it gets to watch everything, the corporations will, the platforms will. But in massive amounts of data like that, some of it can get tainted, some of it can be misconstrued, and sometimes you've got those who are purposely doing it for the sake of either wanting to be trolls, hackers, or troublemakers.
Mm-hmm. Data poisoning.
Yeah, this is a big IT one.
Mm-hmm.
If I told you someone could guess you're pregnant, broke, or about to quit your job just from your shopping history and scroll habits, would you believe me? In this video, I'm going to show you how these prediction engines actually work and how tiny bits of poison in the data can quietly break them. Welcome back, nerds. I'm Addie. I've spent 15 years in cybersecurity, and I teach you about cyber threats before they blindside you. Today, we'll go from a real story of a dad who found out through coupons to a $60 attack that can bend a 400 million image AI to what you can do as a beginner to poke these systems legally and safely. By the end, you'll never look at a personalized feed the same way. Ready to see how fragile this machine really is? The algorithm that knew before anyone else. It's 2012, and a father storms into Target, waving a stack of coupons for maternity clothes, baby furniture, and newborn formula. He's absolutely furious. Why are you sending this to my teenage daughter? Target apologizes, blames some automated system, and tries to calm him down. End of story, right? Wrong. 2 weeks later, the dad calls back. His demeanor has changed this time, and he says,
"There were things happening in my house I didn't know about, but it looks like your system dead."
Target's data team had already done the math. They had built a statistical model, a kind of math engine trained on past shoppers, learned which combinations usually showed up right before someone started buying baby stuff. They had isolated around 24 product combos that screamed pregnancy statistically. Stuff like unscented lotion, vitamin and magnesium supplements, and bigger purses. There were no specific baby items yet. Instead, it was tiny shifts in normal shopping. Each shopper received a pregnancy prediction score. If they had a high enough score, the system timed ads and coupons right into that life transition window when humans are rewiring their shopping habits. A new baby means new routines, which also translates to new brand loyalty that sticks for years. With just diapers, wipes, and detergent, Target can lock in a long-term revenue stream off of a few innocent purchases. Different transition periods are some of the most expensive groups for advertisers targeting because of this desire for that brand loyalty. Here's the creepy but important part. The system inferred forward from indirect signals, and it acted on likelihood. So if algorithms can pull intimate truths out of boring errands and grocery runs, once people realize they're being watched that way, what happens when they start pushing back on the system itself? What data poisoning actually means. Here's the part that will piss off the tech broligarchy. You can mess with the watcher. In machine learning, data poisoning is a real term. It means slipping corrupted examples into training data so the model learns the wrong pattern with full confidence. Zoom that out. At a human level, it's any behavior that trains an algorithm to build the wrong story about you, or about people like you, like binge watching car videos for a week just to see if your feed freaks out. The model can't tell that you're trolling. It logs that as your new real interest. Ad platforms, recommendation feeds, search engines, and For You pages, most of them are continuous learning systems, even when nobody slaps the AI label on them. They run on a few quiet assumptions. First, your clicks reflect real interest. Next, watch time reflects real attention. Third, purchases reflect real intent. Fourth, your past behavior predicts your future behavior too. When those assumptions hold, the system feels psychic. It knows what you want before you even say it. When those assumptions break, the system becomes confidently wrong because models optimize for patterns, frequency, and what looks statistically regular. Tiny distortions sneak in as normal. They can be weird but plausible, but then those distortions get averaged into the way the system understands everyone. So you get this fragile loop. Behavior trains the model shapes what you see, and what you see shapes your behavior, around and around. Now here's the real question. If these systems are built at insane scale, slurping data from hundreds of millions of people, doesn't that scale protect it from manipulation? Or does it actually make poisoning cheaper and easier? Why bigger datasets make poisoning cheaper. Scale turns a $60 prank into an actual vulnerability. A research team looked at a massive 400 million image dataset and ran the numbers. At the time, they estimated they only needed to poison around 0.01% of it. That's tens of thousands of images in a sea of hundreds of millions. Now guess the cost to do that, with hosting and uploads included. I'll give you a second to type your guess in the comments. Shockingly, it's around $60, and that tiny sliver was enough to bend how a model behaved on specific triggers. Think about that. The model still looked normal on almost everything. Accuracy stayed high on benchmarks, but the poisoned pattern, say a certain logo or phrase, and the model slipped into wrong attacker-controlled behavior. Another team at Anthropic pushed this further with language models. They showed that dropping roughly 250 carefully written documents into a training corpus of billions was enough to reliably backdoor the model, regardless of model size. And here's why that works. Models chase statistical regularities. If something looks plausible and shows up often enough in the right context, it gets absorbed into the model's sense of how the world works. The bigger the dataset, the easier it is to hide those distortions. Nobody's hand auditing billions of web pages or images. So scale creates this nice, comforting story of robustness while also creating a gigantic shadow map full of places to tuck in poison. In plain English, people assume that there's so much data that a little bad data can't matter, but that assumption is exactly what makes small, targeted poison so easy to hide. I can't help but keep drawing parallels between the tiny fraction of poison data that can reliably corrupt a massive system and Nassim Taleb's concept of the minority rule in Skin in the Game, which is what I've been reading this week. Both scenarios illustrate how a small, non-scalable set of inputs can disproportionately dictate the behavior of an entire ecosystem. So if the math already allows silent distortion at web scale, where do you actually see this fragility show up in your everyday life? Advertising, where algorithms tell on themselves. Digital advertising runs on probabilistic identity. Trackers follow you across sites and apps and pull together a rough sketch. You probably live here, care about this, and earn about that. Behind the scenes, real-time ad exchanges auction access to that sketch in milliseconds. Advertisers buy a 0.86 chance this person is in market for noise-canceling headphones. The whole thing runs on one belief. Signal equals intent, clicks equal interest, and watch time equals desire. But remember the poisoning logic. Once bots, click farms, faked installs, and I clicked by accident behavior flood the system, the feedback loop warps. Campaigns waste their budget on clicks that don't turn into sales and engagement spikes with no revenue on the other side, which results in massively wasted ad budgets. At that point, the deeper problem is uncertainty. Nobody, and especially advertisers, know what a click means anymore. And once nobody trusts what the numbers are saying, the whole data-driven story holding this ecosystem together starts to wobble. Is it a human or a bot? A bored scroll, or maybe even a poison signal? Advertising is one of the most fragile algorithmic ecosystems because it depends completely on behavioral honesty at scale. When that honesty dissolves, the confidence that powers the whole system collapses with it. And here's the part that matters for AI and security. If ads are just the training wheels for this kind of interference economy, what happens when the exact same corrupted logic moves from banner ads to the entire web that modern AI models train on? From ads to the web itself, model collapse. The scariest attacker most tech bros face, it's their own data, slowly rotting underneath them. We call this long-term, slow-motion poisoning model collapse. Think about it. Modern AIs are constantly refreshed on the latest from the open web, but that web is now stuffed with their own recycled, AI-written sludge. This feedback loop makes the model blander, more generic, and less connected to reality over time. But what truly raises the stakes is the intent behind data poisoning. It became a powerful tool of resistance and self-defense against surveillance and unjust prediction. The ultimate targets are the black box systems that assign risk scores with real-world power. I'm talking about predictive engines built by companies like Palantir. They take billions of seemingly innocent data points like social media connections, utility bills, public records, and create a likelihood score. A score for everything from credit eligibility to who gets granted parole. The most dangerous predictive algorithms are the ones that determine who to target, arrest, or deport. If an algorithm can pull intimate, legally sensitive truths out of grocery runs, like the example of a person who has suffered a miscarriage, then the stakes are literally life and death. So the defensive strategy is simple. Intentionally flood these systems with plausible noise. If enough members of a non-targeted group introduce false contradictory signals, like mimicking a profile they don't have but is targeted, they dissolve the model's confidence. The goal is to make the system confidently wrong when it matters most and waste time and resources. It's possible to take collective, defensive action to make the underlying data so untrustworthy that the people relying on the targeting system can no longer trust their most crucial risk scores. This is the real security story. Sometimes the attacker is an activist, using the system's dependency on clean data against it. If the whole environment is becoming one big, poisonable training set, what does that actually mean for regular humans and anyone who just wants to defend instead of just doom scroll? How you hack the matrix back. So if the whole world is one giant, poisonable training set, here's the part nobody at tech companies wants you to fully internalize. You can fight back. Right now, your social media feed is basically a weaponized nervous system hijacker, filled with rage bait, fear bait, disaster clips, and everything is on fire takes. And all of this stuff is a business model. The longer you're in fight or flight, the longer you're glued to the screen. And the longer you're glued, the richer they get. Data poisoning at your level is how you start breaking that spell. Here's how it works in practice. Create a new social media account and treat it like a doorway to a different timeline. On this account, you are not allowed to feed the rage machine. Instead, you scroll past outrage immediately. Refuse to click anything that spikes your anxiety or cortisol, and only engage with content that would actually make your life better in 6 months. That would be stuff like life skills, joy, health, how to be calm, real problem solving, and actual humanity. At first, the algorithm will keep shoving chaos in your face. It's testing you. But the algorithms are loyal to patterns. If you act bored by the panic and obsessed with things that actually nourish you, it will change your algorithm, and that will change your reality. The one made of recommendations, suggestions, and you might like this, will start to feel a lot less like a trap and more like a tool you can use for your own self-development. That's you poisoning the model's version of you on purpose. Not everyone has to unplug entirely from the matrix to make this work. So you can actually stay inside of it and still take your power back by refusing to play the role that they wrote for you. If you like this video about data poisoning, then you will love this one about how to become invisible online in 2026. I'll see you in that one next.
Oh, yes, you will.
Yes, indeed.
Oh, I'm loving this channel, just looking at the difference. I love these IT channels, Addie. what she suggested there, as
Mhm.
far as like, she calls it data poisoning, but it, it's kind of separation.
Yeah.
There's a reason why I have a personal Google account. I have a
Mhm.
business one. I actually have multiple business Google accounts
Mhm.
for separation of identity. It's the same person, but
Mhm.
it's for different reasons to go online, and I don't want to be suggested all this crap that I get over here when I
Mhm.
go to Talking IT's YouTube
Mhm. Yep.
because I like I like that I have that separation.
Absolutely. I mean, what I should start doing more of is separating as well, because some of my interests are very contradictory. Like, I mean, I'm very much into video games, but I'm also very much into science. And like, that's not really the same thing, right? So if I'm watching videos on science, I don't want it to be in the same feed as, the video game stuff. So if I have an
Yeah.
account where I'm only looking at the video game stuff and that is tied to my video game character, let's say, then that is all over there. And then that's in the feed over there. And everything I do that if I want to go look at a video for something like that, I'll go to that browser, and then this one I'll do over here. The same thing, like there, she's talking about that building the new profile. That's what we did for the Talking IT account to get a really good set of recommendations. Now we're getting new channels, we get recommendations. All the videos that come up are all in the exact lane that we want them to be, because the only things that we look at when we're in that account are things that are relevant to that stuff.
Yeah, and what she's suggesting there is not so much that you're poisoning the data, you're
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 getting a clean
targeting,
slate.
you're controlling the targeting, because the majority of this, as she mentioned, comes from marketing. The marketing analysis, the assumptions, all the assumptions that marketing algorithms make. Thankfully, Glenn is not pregnant.
That's right.
So,
That's right. Still,
although he had a feeling he might be, he knew this video was coming.
yeah, yeah. I was scrolling. I was like, I'm getting an awful lot of crib recommendations now. It is interesting though how much the algorithms do know you, or know about you, and like you were saying in conversation, like you might have just had a conversation with someone on the phone and you mentioned something about a bed or whatever, and all of a sudden you get you're getting feed suggestions about sales on beds, and you're like, wait a minute, you're like, was it listening? And now that's why I got that, because otherwise that's incredibly creepy that it knew about a conversation I just had.
That's where it starts to get creepy. And, I understand, like, if I went to Google and I searched for something, now Google makes an assumption that, like she said, a click translates into interest.
Yep.
And um, when I started seeing like situations where people didn't type anything in, that they simply were either talking through instant messenger or on Zoom, or in some cases, literally just talking in a room. And this is where I start to suspect Alexa and
Yeah.
telephones and
Mhm.
how they use that data. When it comes to marketing, they consider that unintrusive. So
Yeah.
we can listen on Alexa alls we want if we're just using it to market things that you might want to be marketed to you.
We're trying to make your searching easier.
Yeah, I still feel it's intrusive, but I do understand why they call that marketing and how they try to make it appealing that like we know what you're looking for, or in the case of like autocorrect, we know what you really want to say
Mhm. And
until
how many
till
times is
you
that
keep
right?
till you keep hitting backspace and like, no, I want to
Mhm.
say this.
Yeah. My favorite is there's certain words that I type in text all the time. And there's certain words that I will literally never in my life ever type in text. And the one that I will never type in my life in text is the one that keeps coming up as a suggestion. Even though the last 52 times it came up, I deleted it and replaced it with this word. You still haven't learned that that's what I mean when I type that.
Yeah, well, they can't market to you if if
Mhm.
they're watching that, so
Yeah.
they should learn. If we are dealing in the age of AI now, and that AI gets to know you,
Mhm.
if you're sitting there and using Chat GPT every night, like, it does get to know you eventually. It gets an idea of, where you're coming from. Well, that same AI, if it's like using the autocorrect in Google to learn you, then it shouldn't keep making you have to change the word.
Well, that's the thing is I've actually gone in, like I've gotten pissed off enough by stuff like that to go in and remove that word from the dictionary on the side. I was like, okay, you're not correcting that word because that word does not exist. So it's gone. And so now it does find the word that I want it to, because the word that it keeps trying to feed me, I was like, I'm never going to use that. And if I do, I can type it letter by letter and that's just fine.
Yes. I don't need Webster's. I got my own dictionary.
Well, that's the thing is normally for text, like some people, they tap in every letter to type a text. I mean, to me, I use the swipe stuff where, from when I type the word yesterday, it's like a yesterday, like, you're squiggling around like from letter to letter. So it's very fast text entry, but it's something that not everybody does. And it does get it wrong a lot of the time, or you have to select from several words.
I could not communicate through texting.
That's all I do.
I keep it short and sweet. 1, 2 words. That's all I need to text.
I mean, that's usually what I would do also. Like, that's my preference, but that's because I'm just I keep it very curt. I keep it very, concise. Like, if we're getting together at 6 o'clock on Tuesday, then hey, 6 o'clock Tuesday. Like, that's all I have to say, right? We don't have to sit there and have a whole back and forth about what I did this and that and that. It's like, that's
all right.
what the destination is.
I need 3 words there. I'm on 4. My way.
Exactly.
I can do it in 4 words or less.
That's 3 letters, man. OMW. That's the way you do it.
As long as it doesn't autocorrect and say OMG, you're going to confuse people.
Last thing is OMW is one that I send a lot. So that is one. It knows that I was anywhere. 5 min. That's a good one. 5 min, 10 min. When I'm almost there.
I will be RB.
That's right.
Well, this was a nice, freshy addition to our channels. I love cybersecurity, spent a long time in it, and today's world and looking at data at this level, she is seeing the big picture here.
Yeah. I mean, I was working the last time I was working in the network operations center, I was there for about 5 years. And before that, it was all tech support for decades. But it's just all, the times have changed so much, even since the last time I was working in the field, that, if I were to go step back in right now, it would be, everything would be similar, familiar, but there would be a lot of new stuff to have to look at for sure.
I'll tell you what the big difference would be. You wouldn't be babysitting a bunch of hardware the way you used to. You'd actually be babysitting networks and data packets. And nowadays, the focus really is more on the traffic and not the equipment anymore.
Yeah. And I was in that transition at that point, like even, a decade ago, where we had, all the servers in house, we had our own tape backups in house, and then, we were managing all of that. And then we put them all on a truck, sent them to a place that does the hosting, and they do it all there. And if a drive goes down,
you were the tape guy too. I used to have to take the tape backups every night, put them into a nice secure suitcase, and the guy would come every morning.
We trade suitcases
and give us like, here's a bunch of empty tapes. Here's a bunch of full tapes.
Well, that's the thing is in our case, it's, they're bringing us back the tapes from 2 weeks ago at that point. Yeah. So you have, 10 tapes on rotation, so that you're given the ones from 2 weeks ago and we're getting them back. And the idea is, if this building just blows up, we have every single set of backups, nightly for the last 2 weeks. So we could always get back to a point that we needed to.
Well, if I can get back to yesterday, at least get back to yesterday, if the shit hit the fan in the middle of the night.
Well, that's the thing. And you can get back to yesterday, but now suppose yesterday's tape got corrupted. That's why you keep, 10 days worth of tapes.
Which does happen.
Does happen. Even when you have multiple copies. But yes, we've had to deal with the actual, tape suitcase handoff and, the actual server rooms. And, I used to love the fact that the server room that I was working in most of the time was 64 degrees all day. And I got very used to that. So even 70 degrees feels too warm to me out here. So it's like 68 is my preferred at this point.
Yeah, I could live with the temperature, but the fans and
it's noisy.
I swear, I went partially deaf because I was a server guy.
Yeah, I mean those they are loud. Yes, they push a lot of air.
Addie, I will be back because I love all these videos I'm seeing on the channel.
Yes, indeed, good stuff.
That was a nice addition. And now we're going to shift a little into controllers, and not the kind of control that we've been looking at when it comes to all this. MIDI controllers, my favorite kind of controllers. Uh, this one, when I saw the idea of this, for years, I've thought of the concept of making music with a mouse and kind of moving it around to control sound or keys. There's a lot of different things you can control in MIDI, and if you map a mouse properly, you could technically orchestrate like a conductor with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, not only that, but there are gaming mice as well. Like you and I, we both use the same,
With
thumb
all the
trackball.
extra buttons, yeah.
Yeah, there's one where in the thumb there, they've got, at least 9 extra buttons in like a pad. So you could program all of that, even just with these, like what we have here, the trackballs that we both use. They have the, not only the left mouse click, the right mouse click, and the mouse wheel that can be another click and the wheel. There's also another button left and right for a mouse 4 and a mouse 5, which, I usually program into games anyway, just so that I have another extra thing that I can do right there on the mouse. But even with just those 5 buttons and the mouse, you're getting a lot of extra control. And in MIDI, you could do a lot of things with all that.
Because you can program MIDI to trigger whatever you want. Button 1 could be setting a key. Button 2 could be transposing.
My question is, can you do things like
the slider wheel for sure could be cool for
that's what I was thinking. Yeah. But even like for using the buttons as like a modifier, right? Like, if you were using the mouse and you wanted to do something zoomed, like maybe you would hold shift and use the mouse. In this case, like if you could hold, mouse button 6 or whatever and move the mouse up and down, that's controlling this option. Whereas if you're hitting and holding mouse button 7 and moving up and down, you're controlling this other option, so the buttons themselves could just be activating a feature that then the mouse itself controls the behavior of.
Yeah, we've come a long way from right clicking.
Yeah. No double click. Come on.
Yep. So this one's coming from @Production Expert, an expert.
We like experts.
Yes, they have a large collection of free music production video tutorials. I like those.
Oh yeah.
And for this particular product, this one comes, the company that makes it is Eventide. It's the Eventide music mouse. And he's going to show us how it works, what kind of features it has, and the sound engine that it works off of.
Nice.
And I can make music with my mouse.
I like it.
Hi, this is Luke for Production Experts, and this is Music Mouse from Eventide. Music Mouse is not a plug-in virtual instrument. Instead, it runs as a standalone app, and it lets you use your computer, your mouse, and your keyboard as an accessible, playable instrument. It's a great ideas generator, and it lets you come up with chord progressions you might not normally think of when playing a traditional instrument. In pattern mode, I can just hover over the GUI to get some really exotic, ethereal sequences. And today I'm doing that with a little help from Temperance Pro and Instant Flanger as well. So I'm using the A key to turn the sequence on or off, but without the sequence I can just hover over the grid. And small movements can work the best. So my red voice, which you can kind of think of as your left hand, is controlled by the vertical axis with my mouse. Or I move the mouse sideways. And I get different chord voicings. I can avoid losing my place or making unwanted sounds just by hitting the delete key, and that disconnects the mouse, so I can just hover over here. I can turn my voices off or on. I've got different voicings. I'm finding that the chord melody voicing is giving me the best results. Or voice pairs. So more going on in the vertical axis there. There's a more regular diatonic harmony system as well to choose from. And as with all of the parameters in Music Mouse, I can toggle between them using the keys on my keyboard. And as well as the delete key to disconnect my mouse, I can also simply just press and hold my mouse button, so I can move to where I want to go without making a sound and then just let go. I'll press and hold, move again. But as you heard at the beginning, I've also got the pattern generator as well, which is really, really great for hovering and getting inspirational arpeggios, lines, or random textures. I'm finding that Music Mouse lends itself especially well to pentatonic harmonies. I can also use this playing ammo to trigger external instruments using its MIDI functionality, and it also supports MIDI clock sync as well. Music Mouse includes 32 classic FM style patches curated by Laurie Spiegel. I have been using this unmistakable FM flavoured quill sound, and if for a moment I just bypass my flanging and my reverb, I can run a sequence and then listen to all of those sounds, just cycle through them using my U and I keys. It is tempting to move the mouse around a lot when you first sit down with Music Mouse, but small movements definitely give you the best results. And while the GUI has been improved, Eventide have tried to preserve what made the original Music Mouse so usable and so charming in the first place. So whether it's for unexpected twists in existing mixes or fresh inspiration from the ground up, Music Mouse is the ultimate retro ideas machine for your studio. To find out more and to read our full article, head over to the Production Experts blog.
Oh,
I love my pentatonics,
and I do want to play with that. I would probably do what, like he said. At first, I'd be like, I'm moving my mouse everywhere. Like it's an instrument. I should be able to slide all over the place. But the way it's designed is good for like gentle nudges, and with different arpeggios, you could really make something useful out of that.
Absolutely. And especially with, like I was saying, the, being able to hotkey certain ones. So you could have like your top, 6 or 7 or whatever different options that you want to have ready at the hotkeys, so that you can then, click and hold the mouse, move to where you want. And if you want, change the hotkey to something, and boom, there you go.
I could see using that in a combination of my computer keyboard, my keyboard, and my mouse, and actually narrowing. I like how it has the keyboards on all 4 sides.
I was thinking about that.
The
That means
way
the one
it
on
visualizes it.
That means the one on the right and the one on the bottom are backwards, right?
Yeah, and I like that horizontal and vertical approach when it comes to. You really can't technically play something wrong if you've got everything set up right.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with those pentatonics, because then there's only those 5 notes anywhere, so you're going with it.
We never fuck up our pentatonics.
That's right.
Glenn won't have that.
None of that.
Well, I thought that's a very interesting approach to a MIDI controller. Something that very different than your typical MIDI controller.
And I think also, if you were to put that, like, in my case, using it on my system here, I'm on a 40-inch screen. So like for me, the small movements on the mouse, even slightly larger movements, I'd be able to do fine with. If you're trying to do that on a phone and it's the same the same size, you'd have a hard time finding the D versus the D flat. You'd have a tough time with that.
I think with that kind of precision, I'd most likely want to adjust my mouse sensitivity.
Exactly. That's my first go-to.
Till I get it exactly the comfort feel.
And again, if you're not going to make large moves, like if you're not going to go from the bottom of the keyboard to the top of the keyboard, or from all the way over here to all the way over there, then you don't need, the low sensitivity where you can do the broad movements where you want it to be very sensitive. So that's a good place to go modify that. But that is one of the first things I look at with most of my games is mouse sensitivity. Like, I always have to check, vertical and horizontal to make sure that, I'm not going like zzz to try to turn around.
I don't want to roll over Beethoven. I just want him to play.
Yeah, exactly. You got to find the right settings for what you're doing. So yes, that's a key importance.
Yep. At Production Expert, thank you for that tip there. I will check that out. I've always thought like a mouse could make a good, at least arpeggiating chord composing tool. And I like the approach. I like the approach they're taking.
Yeah, idea generation, and it is something that you can just almost mindlessly just have your hand on the mouse and just hear things and be like, wait a minute, what was that? And you like go back to it and you hear it again. You're like, okay, and now you pick up your actual instrument and now you've got something to actually a little nugget to start building from.
Yeah, and I do like these tools that kind of get you to explore. Get you to just kind of play. Like this is a good place to go when you're looking for new ideas.
Exactly.
And now for a different way of triggering MIDI. Yes. Can I do a claw? I would love if I could do like a guitar claw. Oh, that would be the ultimate.
One that we were just talking about yesterday. I told you I went out to see my friends Pepe and Jeff out there in Pennsylvania. And we were talking about one of the chords that is, when you're holding the chord, it looks like you're giving the middle finger. So it's like the rude chord. Like you can't use that chord because everyone thinks you're being rude, but it's like
I'm just playing guitar, man.
You're just sliding it in
there. No offense, but this chord is cool.
Exactly, and it's slidable too. You move it all over. See.
So here we've got a freshie channel, Floyd, new to us, but he's a synth guy, so like about time we got you on this. Synthesizer and computer nerd, posting synthesizer and computer related videos. And for this one, it's at Mr_Floydist. And here he's going to show us an interesting device that does this gesturing. And he's going to show you you don't necessarily need to get this device to do it. The concept is pretty straightforward. And the idea is almost to like trigger like a conductor, if you do this or you do this, and your gestures can trigger MIDI samples, loops.
If you're going to conduct like Dudamel.
So an eyebrow-raising MIDI controller, which he did get my eyebrow to raise. When I saw it, I was like, I think I can find a use for this.
Very interesting.
Yes, I'm very expressive.
Let's check it out.
Yes.
Hi, you're watching Floyd Steinberg's YouTube channel, and today, this. This, of course, is the old hat OpenCV and media pipe for finger gesture detection. In this case, used to control a DAW or an external synthesizer. This caused quite a big stir some 4 years ago, but chances are you've not seen this before. And as you can build this yourself relatively easily for a relatively low amount of money, I'll show you how to do this in today's video. Here we go. Before we get into the details, here's another demo. The left hand controls chords and filter, the right hand plays bass. The room was very dark here. Sound is from the Synth. Right, let's take a look at what you need for this. The smallest Raspberry Pi that can run this setup is the Raspberry Pi Zero 2, which costs around $20. In this video, I'm using my Clockwork Pi Cyberdeck though. This is a Raspberry Pi Compute Module 4 based device. You also need an SD card for roughly $5, a USB camera for about $10, and a USB hub for around $10. And that's it. Since you're watching this channel, I'll assume you already own a hardware synthesizer to use with this, ideally one with a USB interface like the Xsynth here. Start by installing the Raspberry Pi operating system onto the SD card using the Raspberry Pi Imager. For this to work, you need the previous version of the operating system, Bookworm. Put the SD card into the Raspberry Pi and connect it to your Wi-Fi. You can attach a keyboard and monitor or simply log in via SSH or VNC. Open the terminal and type sudo apt update, sudo apt upgrade, and then pip install MediaPipe OpenCV Python -- break system packages. If you're running Bookworm, this should go through without any trouble. Next, connect the camera and the synthesizer or MIDI interface to your Raspberry Pi. As I mentioned earlier, OpenCV and MediaPipe have been around for a while. They really took off in 2021, and you'll find plenty of tutorials online. This open source software analyzes any video stream and looks for anything vaguely human looking or sounding, breaking it down into mesh models and keywords. OpenCV was developed by Intel around 1999 and MediaPipe was developed by Google in 2017. OpenCV is a library that helps with image processing, drawing, video capture, image manipulation, and so on. MediaPipe is a framework built around neural networks that specializes in object model recognition, faces, hands, poses, and so on. Both are still in active development, but their focus has shifted a bit toward web applications. That's why we're using the slightly older build for this experiment here. You can easily write your own MediaPipe apps in Python. Just open a text editor, type in your code, and save the file as filename.py. Let's take a look at today's example. I won't go through every detail, but I'll give you a quick overview of what's happening. We start by importing CV2, MediaPipe, and RT MIDI, Python libraries that provide all the high-level functions we need. There are a few performance options you can tweak here. For instance, turning off the wireframe display frees up some CPU cycles for other tasks. A Raspberry Pi 5, for example, should be able to process more frames per second, which means faster detection and lower latency. This part of the script scans for MIDI devices and lets you choose one at startup. Then we define 5 chords in the key of C major by their MIDI notes, one for each number of fingers you can hold up. Next, we set up the camera. MediaPipe doesn't need high-resolution images. In fact, it works perfectly well at 160 x 120 pixels. Modern cameras usually output much higher resolutions, so it helps performance to downscale the image before feeding it into MediaPipe. MediaPipe passes the image almost instantly. It then gives you a set of so-called landmarks and their XY coordinates on screen. The function fingerUp here uses this data. It looks at the 5 landmarks associated with the finger and thumb tips. We simply compare their relative position to the upper finger joints. If the tip is lower than the joint, the finger is down. We loop over all fingers, count how many are up, and that's it. This part of the script checks whether there are hands in the picture, whether they are left or right, and extracts the 21 landmarks for each hand. We then count the fingers on each hand using the function above, and we also record the Y position of the left hand's wrist. That Y position is converted to MIDI CC1, which is the modulation wheel. The number of fingers held up selects notes from the array we defined earlier. We do the same thing for the other hand, but assign single bass notes to each possible number of fingers instead. On the X synth, I now need to assign the mod wheel to filter cutoff, and that's basically the whole script. Here's another fun example. This one tracks my eyebrows and maps them to pitch bend and mod wheel. Alright, that's it for today. I hope you found this interesting. Here's one final demonstration on the Akai MPC Live 3 where I play the chords and the MPC handles everything else. Yeah, and that's it for today. OpenCV and MediaPipe with a $10 webcam and a $20 Raspberry Pi module used for controlling MIDI devices like synthesizers or DAWs. And if you think this was a good YouTube video, please do the YouTube thing. As always, thanks for watching and see you again next week. Bye bye.
Nice. Some great examples of some scripting there for sure. Like to be able to see how the actual Python script's going around and see what he's actually doing there from the different options.
Yes, Floyd, that was more eyebrow raising than I thought.
Indeed. And what's funny is that like I can raise one eyebrow very easily, and if I want to just raise the other one, it's kind of like a little bit of a struggle. And I think he has the same kind of an issue where like one was fine, but the other one he's just like, like trying to hold the one down.
Oh, I want to see Ange jam out with her face because she could definitely express.
Absolutely. Oh, and when he was doing the gestures with the fingers, when he did the mod wheel with the up and the down, the filter cut off, that was very cool. Like that was what you were talking about with being able to hold a chord and just kind of lift your hand up and then down and have it do something,
Yeah.
mod related.
Yeah, it actually reminded me of, last year when we were looking at the
Right.
Roly Airwave. And, with that one, you've got to get this proprietary device and it reads based on, I guess, gestures in front of it. I like the idea of this where, I've got a pie that I've been looking for a good excuse to pull it out and do something.
And I'm betting the pie that you have is twice as powerful as the one that he just used, because the one he was talking about is like
Yeah.
the lowest
Yeah.
Wi-Fi pie that there is.
And I know the coding and having to root in and with Linux, it can seem a little intimidating, but everything was straightforward there.
Yeah.
The programming it on the Python side, right up my alley.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is it looked very accessible was what I was looking at there.
Yeah. I really would like to be able to conduct that way with my synthesizer.
Definitely. We will set that up and check it out.
Yeah, the facial control was a nice surprise. Like I could see usefulness out of that.
Well, even just seeing that the way that, I mean, it was involved with the programming, like you were saying, like he was saying, as far as the number of fingers and, comparing the fingertip to the other part of the finger and seeing what's where and then counting them all up and all that. It seems complex, but once you go down that road and once you've got the script set, it does seem like it just, it works and it works fine.
Yeah, it seems to work real time. I mean, that's with a music controller, with a MIDI controller, that's important. Like, needs to respond when you want to hit.
And having the additional degrees of freedom, the raising things up, bringing them down, changing, having it watch the wrist. You can change another option with the other hand if you wanted to, so that you could have the volume going up and down with this hand and the pitch go bend with this hand or something like that.
That's exactly why I want it, is to actually take care of some things that I don't want to be using the pitch wheel and the modulator. If I can do it this way and keep doing it, that's easier to do than having to move my hand all the way to the end of the keyboard.
And for some people, that's also where a foot pedal would be a good thing for certain things. Like whether, for a volume pedal, for example, for keyboards, you go to another patch and it's too loud. Having your foot on a volume rocker means that you can just literally just rock back a little bit and you're fine.
Yeah, but tell me it wouldn't be awesome to make a cool face and boom, like all of a sudden your modulation wheel is your eyebrow.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And then you could also have something where when you do bass face, it does, it kicks in that envelope filter. Got to have something to respond to bass face.
Yes, this is my rocker face. You should know what to play.
Exactly. You should know what I want to hear at this point.
Yeah. At Mr._Floyd ST. Freshy channel as well, and a MIDI guy and a synth guy that I will definitely be coming back for more.
Yeah, I love the Raspberry stuff. Raspberry Pi stuff is always good.
I've got 2 of them, and I really would like to find something useful for them to do. This is right up that alley.
Exactly. So get on it.
Oh. And I will be back for your Yamaha demo as well, because that's another one I've been looking at.
Nice.
So now for our last video, Reaper. We talk about a lot of different DAWs here, and this is the one that I find myself moving towards, thanks to Jason, but also because it's not expensive. As far as DAWs go, they have the most reasonably priced lifetime license. You're not having to subscribe every month for your DAW, and it's super lightweight. As far as all the DAWs go, this is one of the most efficient DAWs there is. It doesn't have any overhead it doesn't need.
Does it right. And like you said, we've seen the workflow, and we've seen the workflow go smoothly. We've seen how people can just fly through a project when they know what they're doing.
Yeah. And this one's coming from at URM Academy. And what I liked about this was, he's been around for a long time. He's been doing music production for a long time. Reaper wasn't his first DAW. It's just as things have changed, especially in the last 5 years, for sure, you've seen Reaper just like outperforming, out outshining all the other DAWs, and some of those other DAWs are $500 to $1,000 to get the same functionality that you can get for about $60 for a lifetime license. For me, it's not a hard decision. If this apple is equal to that apple, and one's this price and the other one's 500 times more, I'm going to go with the cheaper apple, assuming that it does everything it needs to do. And in the case of Reaper, it's all functionality is there. Even if you get the free version, what I really respect about this company is even the free version never becomes crippled. They'll put a nag screen up at the beginning, but they give you a fully functional DAW right out of the box.
Yeah. And I think that also comes to the fact that they know they're working with musicians. They know that a lot of times musicians don't have a lot of money to spend, whether it's they're spending it on gear or, food, things like that,
Musicians got to eat.
Musicians got to eat. But they understand that if they find the tool useful when they have the money, they would then, that nag screen is, that reminds them every time, when I have the money, I would do that. Yes.
And in the case of this, I wouldn't spend that $60 just to get rid of the nag screen. I'd spend it because I like to have that kind of tech support, that ability to contact the company and get, because with DAWs and setup and everything, it's nice to be able to contact the ones who are that you're actually using.
And at the same time, you and I are also two of the people who would find our own solutions more than most, for sure, rather than contacting tech support. But for me, it's not even the getting rid of the nag screen, and it's not so much the other part. It's basically supporting the company. It's supporting the company that I believe in. Like, I'm using the product, I believe in the product, I'm supporting the company. Same goes with companies where, sometimes it'll be a license where, pay if you can or pay if you want to, kind of a thing. Right. And in those cases, I usually, I'm not going to lie, I don't always pay for those, for sure. But, there are times where I would support a company like that and say, hey, you know what? There's a game right now that's in early access. It's not done. It might have bugs. There's more content coming, but it's in early access, and it's a game that I believe in because I've played other games from them before. So I go ahead and I buy the game for $20. And it's like, that's something that I will do because I believe in the company and I believe in, the product that it has there.
Yep. And one of the most compelling reasons as far as a DAW goes for this one is the community support.
Right.
You can find help on anything with Reaper because there's so many people using it, and they are the cool music community where they share tips, and they're not hoarding their Pro Tool tips because my information special. In the Reaper world, everybody shares information and tips, and it's the kind of community that I rather be part of in the DAW world.
Definitely. I mean, the whole thing about, the whole making everybody else better, assisting everybody else to get better makes all of us better, because then we can all rely on each other. And somebody who didn't know before, they, get some tips from you that gets them up to this level. And now maybe they see something that you didn't see and gets them up to that level, and then they can help other people, it kind of leapfrogs like that.
Yeah, we're all in this together.
Exactly.
Yeah. So at URM Academy is going to give a really good, compelling reason why Reaper is taking over the industry. And I do agree with him. I think in the long term, it's not to say the other DAWs aren't going to be there. They're going to grow. They're all cool. But this one is community driven, and it's not greedy. It was built by musicians for musicians, and if you are a metalhead, he's going to even give you some good, compelling reasons there, because I watch a metalhead use this every night, and It's why I want to go to it.
Yeah, exactly. And again, seeing him work in Reaper is one of those things that will make you want to use Reaper.
Yeah. He's another soldier who could come out, make a Reaper video, Jason.
Yeah.
You could convince millions to switch.
Yeah. You don't even have to talk. You could just literally have the camera just showing your workflow as you're doing your thing and just do your thing.
Oh, he can talk.
Oh, of course.
I want you. I want you to talk.
But he's got to talk like this the whole time.
Yeah, that would be cool. So let's see, URM Academy, why Reaper is taking over the industry.
All right.
I used to think that Reaper was a joke, and I don't mean that I was neutral on it. If I saw someone using it, I would assume immediately that they're just not serious. In my head, it was the DAW for people who didn't want to pay for plugins and who spent more time tweaking their computers than actually finishing music. And that opinion stuck with me for a really long time. Now, what's interesting is I didn't change my mind because of the hype or some influencers or some really aggressive commenters or a YouTube video. I changed my mind because I kept on running into situations where ignoring Reaper no longer made sense. And that is what this video is about. If you pay attention to what's happening in high-level metal production and live touring right now, there's a real generational shift underway. The old standards, yeah, they're still everywhere, but the direction things are moving feels very different than it did even 10 years ago. Stick with me, because the reason for that shift has less to do with money and more to do with how modern work gets done. But before we go any further, here's some context. Reaper is a DAW, a digital audio workstation, the same category of software as Pro Tools, Logic, Cubase, or Ableton. It's been around a long time. It was developed by a small team called Cocos. I think that's how you pronounce it. And it runs on Windows, Macs, and Linux. And for a long time, Reaper wasn't just overlooked in professional circles, it was actively dismissed. It had this reputation as something that serious engineers didn't use, and if they did, it was a red flag. Most of the industry didn't even see it as an option, and I absolutely shared that view at the time. If you don't know me, I'm A.L. Levy. I'm the CEO of URM Academy. I've been a producer and guitarist in my band Doth since 1999, and I've spent more than 2 decades inside professional studios. I came up on tape, watched Pro Tools take over, and lived through the explosion of home recording. So when I say that I ignored Reaper for a really long time, it wasn't based on ignorance. It was a conscious decision based on what I was seeing at the professional level at the time. But the industry isn't just professionals anymore. There's far more people recording today than there even were 10 years ago. There's band members doing their own demos, musicians who just want to capture ideas properly, and producers working part-time who don't want to build an entire studio just to get usable results. And speaking of getting usable results, this video is brought to you by Nail the Mix. If you want to learn how to mix and master metal, Nail the Mix is the place to do it, straight from the best. Mixers like Will Putney, Buster Odeholm, Jens Bogren, Nolly, TLA, David Bendeth, and artists such as Gojira, Meshuggah, Periphery, Opeth, Nickelback, and over 100 more. At the start of the month, we released the raw multi-tracks from the session so you can download them straight into your DAW and mix the song from scratch. Getting your hands on this kind of source material is an incredible learning opportunity, just so you can see what the standard really is like at this level. Then, at the end of the month, the mixer does a live stream where they break down exactly how they mixed it on the record and answers your questions live. You can also join our monthly mixing competition. Submit your mix, vote for your favorites, and win prizes like microphones, guitars, plugins, gear, and a lot more cool stuff. And your membership comes packed with extras. All the URM plugins, MixLab with over 150 tutorials, Riff Hard for guitarists, and access to our private community on Discord and Facebook. So if you're serious about leveling up your mixes and learning from the very best, check out nailthemix.com today. It's at the link in the description of this video. Now here's where pricing and licensing actually really matters a lot, because Reaper is very, very inexpensive. And that matters not just because people are always hunting for deals, but because a lot of people using Reaper are trying to decide whether or not recording is worth the friction at all. Reaper effectively lowers that threshold. It makes it easier to start, easier to stick with, and easier to grow into over time. At the high end, professionals switch to it because of workflow and reliability. At the entry and mid-level, people choose Reaper because it lets them get real work done without overcommitting. Those two groups end up feeding the same ecosystem, and that's where the momentum starts to build. In the early days of Nail the Mix, like 9-10 years ago, the idea of having one of our guest instructors use Reaper was unheard of. It just didn't even come up. We brought in top-tier engineers, always have, and none of them even touched it. It just wasn't part of serious production education because the people setting the bar weren't using it. Now that started changing quietly and I didn't notice it at first. The first moment or the first person that forced me to start paying attention was Mike Galasian from Rogue Planet Mastering. Mike is widely considered one of the best mastering engineers working today. And what caught my attention wasn't his sound, even though his sound is great. It was his workflow. The moment a client books a session, scripts kick off automatically, files download, Reaper opens, and everything is laid out exactly where it needs to be before he even sits down. By the time Mike starts working, there's no manual setup at all, and I cannot overstate how important that is. Watching and learning about how Mike works forced me to confront something that I had never really thought about before. He wasn't moving faster because he was rushing. He was moving faster because he eliminated a lot of the grunt work. That grunt work didn't even exist for him in the first place. I was used to sitting down, opening a session, organizing files, labeling tracks, setting things up, and then finally actually starting the job. Mike removed all of that. The DAW was not something that he prepped before working. It was already prepped. What really stood out was that he wasn't thinking about individual sessions. He was thinking about a repeatable system. And once that system existed, every new project just flowed through it automatically. And that's when it clicked for me that a lot of what we accept as normal professional work or just part of the deal is friction that we've been conditioned to tolerate. And once you notice that, the obvious question becomes, why isn't that kind of workflow more common? It's not because of mindset. It has a lot to do with what the software allows under the hood. Reaper is extremely lightweight. It doesn't assume a top-tier machine or a pristine studio computer. Chances are that if someone can't afford a full-price DAW, they're probably not running a top-tier computer. That's just reality. Because Reaper doesn't demand much from the system, it works reliably on modest hardware where heavier software can struggle. Sessions feel less fragile. CPU spikes matter less. The software doesn't become another obstacle you have to fight just to get work done. That kind of reliability on imperfect machines is easy to underestimate, but it creates a very specific outcome. It gives people enough stability and headroom to start pushing boundaries instead of managing problems. Once the basics stop fighting you, or you stop fighting the basics, your focus can shift to experimentation and actually doing the creative work. And that's where the next shift showed up for me. The next person who really helped me change the way I thought about Reaper was the producer, Josh Schroeder.
Hi again, I'm Josh Schroeder.
Most people know him for his work with Lorna Shore, but I've been following him since his King 810 days. Josh approaches production in a way that's hard to miss. He's constantly bending sounds, rebuilding chains, and chasing ideas that don't fit neatly into default workflows. Watching someone like Josh use Reaper made something obvious. The people doing the most interesting work weren't trying to stay inside the lines. They wanted tools that would get out of the way when they started doing things the software wasn't originally designed for. And that is where JSFX comes in. Reaper lets users write and modify their own audio effects using a high-performance scripting language that updates instantly. You can open the source code and change how your tools behave in real time. Here's the part I missed early on. All audio engineers, or at least most audio engineers, love solving problems and sharing solutions. That is not unique to Reaper. The difference is that Reaper invites customization and has a culture built around it. New users expect to tweak it, they know they'll need help, and they go looking for it. And that expectation creates a demand for shared knowledge. People ask more questions, they trade scripts, layouts, and workflows because that's part of how you're supposed to use the software. Over time, the community becomes an informal support and discovery layer that never really shuts off. The more people who start using Reaper at a casual level, the more knowledge gets shared, created, and refined. And that in turn feeds back into why professionals can trust it for serious real-world work. Customization also plays a very important role that might be kind of easy to miss or at least overlook. Most people don't avoid switching DAWs because they're afraid of learning new features. They avoid switching DAWs because they don't want to relearn how to work. Years of muscle memory get baked into shortcuts and habits that you don't even think about anymore. Reaper quietly lowers that risk. With some setup, you can make it behave close enough to what you already know that your instincts still apply. You're not starting from zero, you're adapting. For instance, there are skins that will make it look and behave like almost any other DAW. So if you get the Pro Tools skin, it's going to be pretty close. And that changes how the decision feels. switching stops feeling like a hard reset and starts feeling more manageable, even if it's obviously going to take some time. And it's worth contrasting how the industry got here in the first place. For a really, really long time, Pro Tools earned its place for some very real reasons. Hardware integration mattered. Large format consoles, control surfaces, sync systems, and monitoring chains were deeply tied into Pro Tools workflows. In high-end studios, that tight integration was a massive advantage. In those rooms, stability meant predictability. Assistants needed to walk in and know exactly how the room behaved. Sessions needed to open the same way every time. Customization was often a liability, not a benefit. Now, that infrastructure obviously doesn't disappear overnight, but hardware definitely matters a lot less than it used to. Processing power moved to native CPUs, control moved into software, rigs became portable, and the studio stopped being a room and started being a system you could move. As hardware became more interchangeable, the advantage shifted away from deep coupling and towards flexibility and reliability. And that shift really hit home for me with live stability. Stability means something different today than it did 15 years ago. In the old days, if your computer went down, maybe you lost a take, maybe a session got corrupted. Nowadays, if your computer goes down, you've got dead air in front of thousands of people. Live shows are built around laptops, automation, and real-time processing. Patch changes, tempo synced effects, backing elements, all of it has to happen flawlessly every night. Crews are smaller, changeovers are faster, and there's really no time to troubleshoot once the show starts. You know, when everything lives on one machine or even two machines, stability stops being a preference, it becomes a requirement. I was talking to Buster Oderholm from Humanity's Last Breath about this. In the studio, he uses Pro Tools. However, on the road, he runs Reaper. Their live show is extremely complex. There's heavy automation, pitch shifting, wah effects, and constant patch changes. And on top of that, they're not relying on hardware modelers or real amps. All their amp sounds run inside Reaper using amp sims. The entire show lives on a single laptop. And if that laptop fails, the show is over. Buster told me that he runs Reaper live because it almost never crashes, and that was a real wake-up call for me because I'd rather chew on broken glass than trust Pro Tools in a live setting. When Doth started preparing for our European tour in 2025, I decided to learn Reaper for the same reason. I wanted the smallest possible rig and zero anxiety about reliability. I stuck with the default setup to keep things as stable as possible, and it performed perfectly. And at that point, all the back and forth about which DAW is actually better just didn't matter. Once you've trusted something in a situation where failure is not an option, everything else becomes secondary. And my experience isn't isolated. You know, we run polls inside of URM Academy to see which DAWs people are using. We've done it for years. Early on, Pro Tools dominated at around 60%. Over time, that number's dropped while Reaper and Cubase have steadily grown. Pro Tools is still big, but Reaper is really, really catching up. And that's because a lot of people today are entering the industry not as assistants through the traditional system, they're learning independently. They're recording bands themselves, producing from home, and building careers without ever setting foot in a traditional facility. They care way less about what used to be the standard and a lot more about what lets them work effectively now, today. They want tools that don't fight them, don't force them into rigid structures, and don't assume a specific room or piece of hardware. And that difference in how people enter the industry changes how they value their tools. And real quick, to be clear, skepticism here is reasonable. No one, and I mean nobody, that means you, should overhaul their tools just because of a video or some trend. Trust is something that software earns over time, usually through hundreds or thousands of hours of use on stuff that actually matters. If your current setup isn't holding you back, there is no urgency to change anything. But the people who did switch didn't do it to be different or trendy, because they reached a point where their current tools were either slowing them down too much or adding risk they didn't feel comfortable carrying anymore. Once a tool proves itself consistently under pressure, it becomes really hard to ignore. And you can see this most clearly in environments where complexity explodes fast. One example is game audio, where projects can involve hundreds or thousands of assets that need to be rendered, named, and updated constantly. That's why tools like Reaper's region render matrix even exist. But the lesson isn't about game audio, it's about automation and friction. Every click you don't have to make is mental energy that you get back, regardless of what kind of project you're working on. So in no uncertain terms, what we're watching now is a real shift happening in real time. Modern workflows reward efficiency, portability, and resilience more than tradition. Reaper can run from a USB drive and adapt to how you work, instead of forcing you into a fixed structure. I'll leave you with this question. Let me know in the comments. Don't tell me which DAW you use. Just tell me which problem it solves for you that you can't get solved anywhere else. And if you've switched DAWs in the last few years, what pushed you to finally do it? As always, like, comment, subscribe, share, and we'll see you next time.
Oh, that's a great question he left off.
That's the right question. Exactly.
Yeah.
What did it solve that you can't get solved elsewhere? Because
Well,
there's not a lot of DAWs that could solve a problem that you can't do with Reaper is part of the problem, or part of the answer there.
In my case, the reason, and it wasn't reason, but the DAW that I chose was because my keyboard compatibility.
Right.
You know, Cakewalk and Cubase know my Rolands. They know the patches, they know the libraries. It's baked into the DAW.
Yeah.
That's why I went with them. Why now I'm going to shift over is with their scripting that Reaper has, and they do have their own instrument definition system. I can take that Cakewalk patch definition that I have, I can convert it in XML and bring it over to Reaper, and boom, Reaper now does what Cakewalk initially did for me.
There you go. So now you're making a new solution essentially.
Yeah, and like he said, with Reaper, you're not really relearning the wheel. It's a very easy DAW to shift to because it's set up a lot like the other big ones. You use that skin, you can make it look like the one that you're used to.
That I like a lot, and especially for the reason that he mentioned, which is it's not them trying to masquerade as the other software, but it's more, again, to lower the learning curve. Like if you were a Pro Tools user and you come over to Reaper and everything looks different, it could be disorienting, this and that. But if you can then skin it to make it look like Pro Tools, and now at least things are where you expect them to be, your workflow can at least continue like that, while you then, if you decide to, continue to learn the way Reaper is set up as itself in the regular skin.
Yeah, yeah.
To see if that workflow is better.
There's a few things I've noticed that are conceptually different. The way that they do buses, it's going to take me a moment to reprogram my brain because I've gotten so used to busing a certain way with Cakewalk.
Oh, yeah.
But the way Reaper does it is actually intuitive. Because I've seen Jason do it for so long, I've translated in my head like, oh, he's doing what I would normally do this way over in Cakewalk. Now that I understand how it works, it's just a matter of getting my brain used to the different arrangement there.
Right, the translation.
Yeah, and interacting with the plugins. That's another thing that's a little different, but for the most part, you know, plugins are what they are when you pop them up. It's just how you set them up in the chain and where you set up your plugins.
And you mentioned the buses. One thing I had noticed with the different different boards that we use from different live performances. Usually we use the Persona stuff, and it's usually using the same hardware all the time. So knowing how we have things set to the monitor mixing, for example, what we're sending to the main mix versus what's going to monitor mix 1, 2, 3, 4 up the line. When I then sat in to mix on Bill's board on a totally different setup, I think it was the X series boards. And with that setup, it works with the monitoring differently. Like when you go to select which channels are going to which monitor mixes, it'll give you like a matrix. And so now you can go and say, okay, I want, for all of these monitor mixes, I want to send, this one, this one, this one, this one. And then for these, so it gives you a different way of selecting things. But at the same time, you're doing the same thing, just in a slightly different way. But knowing how to do it in multiple places makes it easier to learn on another one. It makes you more flexible. So that's where also I like that skinning idea, from the fact that you could be using Reaper, and if you're a Reaper person, you could still sit there and teach yourself some about the layout or the workflow of some of those other, the Pro Tools or the other DAWs by using that skin to kind of learn somewhat of that workflow.
Yeah. I think the big key is learn it in an environment where you have the time to. Don't try to learn it when like you got a live gig and it's like, oh, now I'm going to go from this to this, and you have to do it under pressure.
Right.
That's how sometimes people get jaded and like, oh, I couldn't get it to work, so fuck that, and I'm going back to this. Learn it, transition to it, patiently a week or two in Reaper, you're likely going to feel like you're right at home.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
Yeah. And the lightweight that it is the biggest compelling reason for me. I am trying to get away from Windows, and as far as in the Linux world, this is the only DAW that I would consider in the Linux world. There are other ones, but this is the only one that actually offers the high-end kind of features and VST support that I would want. As soon as I can get those Windows VSTs to work in Linux properly.
Right, exactly. And that's the key.
And my real hope is that as things work themselves out, whatever's going to happen with Windows 12, whatever's going to happen in the music world with DAWs, my hope is that the whole Linux plugin thing, just like with Mac and Windows plugins, the idea that I would buy a plugin twice because I have a Mac and a Windows machine. Fuck you. If I'm paying for that license, I better be able to run that on any platform, and I'm not buying it again just to run it on a different operating system. I hope that all of that starts to either smooth itself out, or we go to like a cloud plugin kind of standard. I feel like it's time. More and more people are actually using online DAWs and other approaches than your traditional DAW. I see cloud plugins coming. I've seen a couple of different companies attempt at making a cloud-like plugin that can load in any DAW depending on what you're working with. I'm hoping that somewheres down the road, the plugins separate from the operating system.
Yeah, it's a valid hope, but the question is whether, the reason that it hasn't happened is kind of the question. Like, why hasn't that already happened? It makes so much sense. Why hasn't it already happened?
The main reason is because each operating system talks to the audio hardware differently.
Right. So trying to make one
plugin,
it would have to be twice as big in order to have twice the operating sets and all that. So
and you have layers that in order to work under this, then you got to go through this layer and this layer and this layer, and that's where latency and all the problems. I don't want my plugins to start introducing latency because they're universal.
Exactly.
I want them to work.
And that's just me trying to get to the heart of why it is that we're not there yet, and that's really part of it. That's kind of gets to the heart of why we're not there yet.
That's the big one. That's why there is Mac and Windows plugins, because they have to rewrite the code because this operating system doesn't talk to your Focusrite the same way this one does.
Yep. And you just answered the other right question, which was, why don't they just combine them? And it's because it makes it too big or adds too much latency, because it's now trying to go through both sets of commands, even though it only needs to look at half of it.
Well, if the hardware keeps getting better and eventually we hit that sweet spot in performance where even an extra layer doesn't add extra latency, then, maybe by our 2030s, we'll see universal cloud plugins that work everywhere.
That on a chip that you plug into your neck right here.
Yeah. I'm going to neural link my plugin in.
Well, I tell you what, that Shark guitar that we looked at, was it last week, a couple weeks ago? That had the 2 weeks ago, that had the effect modules that you could just basically click it into the body of the guitar. I was like, damn, like that's the way to go with that.
And imagine if they could get VST plugins directly into the guitar. Oh my God, that would be cool.
Yeah, I mean that's basically where that is. At that point, yeah.
I mean, we did see a dude put it on a Steam Deck, which is this big. If they could incorporate that kind of stuff directly in the guitar, that would be groundbreaking.
Yeah. Well, one of the guitarists in one of the bands I talked to about the Shark guitar, he watched the video, and the next week we talked about it again. And he was saying his one thing is he wanted to put his own pickups in. And he thought when he watched the video that he couldn't do that. And I was like, no, you absolutely can do that. Like they have the rail system, any pickups, your pickups, our pickups, doesn't matter. So in that case, like that's totally fine. Everything else about it he loved. I mean, except the price, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an expensive instrument.
You can't have it
You
all.
can't have it
Price is usually the showstopper,
but at the same time, conceptually, he loved the whole thing. Yeah.
And as far as price on Reaper goes, that's actually the reason. Like that's a good
And lifetime.
reason
That's
to take a look at it.
and a lifetime license is one of those things that
Yeah.
so many companies, they give you this and then it's you buy this update or upgrade or whatever, next version. Oh, we're going from 3 to 4, so now you have to buy it again. A lifetime license, lifetime.
If you want to continue to support the company, like you said, you can continue to support them, but they're not going to force you to get the new version. They're not going to force you to have to shell that out.
Exactly. And I love a company with that policy. And that's the thing, is those are the companies that I am more likely to give the money to than I would a company that is requiring you to buy those upgrades every year. Then eventually I'm going to say, forget that and, move to this. So might as well make the move to this sooner, as long as the functionality is there, which you also mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I'm old school. I want my license for life.
Yeah. I love it.
I respect when they do come out with new versions. Cubase was my other consideration. Going from Cakewalk, Cubase, I started actually back.
I remember back
in the
then
early
too.
2000s with. I considered going back to it, but Reaper at that time wasn't an option. And even 10 years ago, if I had to do this switch now, I probably would have gone back to Cubase. But given where Reaper's going, the performance that you get out of it with minimal hardware, and I do want to get away from Windows eventually, all the compelling reasons are Reaper.
You want to get away from Windows a lot sooner than eventually.
It's coming in on us like this year. Shit's gonna hit the fan there, and I'm happy with Windows 10. I will continue to use Windows 10 as long as the software that I need to use is supported there. If a program comes out and says, "Oh, I'm only going to work with Windows 12," well, fuck you, program, and fuck you, company that forces me to get Windows 12
I'll find another solution
to run to run like a Photoshop. I mean, I hope Adobe's not stupid like that, because if they were to do that to me, I will leave and I will find an alternative. Do not force me onto an operating system.
Well, again, the question comes down to, why would they force you to an operating system? And it would be because the software that they write would be geared towards the new operating system coming out. So it would have to be coded for it, so that now it's no longer compatible with the old version. And
in the case of Windows, it would be the new sound API that they're doing. They introduced in Windows 11. Windows 12 is probably going to shift completely to this API. And if audio software does actually force you to have to upgrade your Windows that way, I understand why it could happen, but
you don't have to like it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna like it. I'm more likely to switch to Mac before I switch to Windows 12.
And again, that's another option that you have, either Mac, or by then you're hoping that the Linux stuff has come along to where you can make it all work with Linux.
The only thing stopping me from Linux Music Machine was the VST plugins and the emulation. I almost included a video tonight because the emulation's getting great over there. They've moved from just Wine emulation to it's almost native. The emulation's almost baked in now, and that means you might be able to run native Windows apps in Linux without any overhead. And in the music world, that's a big deal.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, Reaper, very minimal overhead in the first place. If it doesn't need it, it's not there, so.
Yeah. It would be my choice.
Excellent. And a great review.
Yeah. Great information there at URM Academy online school. They got a mothership website. It's at urm.academy. If you're looking for good recording tips and tricks, and especially if you're a metalhead, looking at you, Jason. Although he already knows.
Yeah.
He already knows it all.
He's probably, he's probably answered half of the questions in the Reaper community answers board.
Oh, and thank you, Ange. Yeah, drop a like and comment. Let them know Talkin Shhh I.T sent you.
That's right. Excellent. On a Thursday.
That's why I love her.
Always on a Thursday.
So there's been a few times we've actually snuck in on the other nights.
Exactly. A few times.
But Thursdays are.
That's right. We own the Thursdays. It's in the song.
We used to share it with the dads.
We did. We did. All the best to the dads.
Yeah, I miss them. But that was a great collection there. Things, the MIDI controllers, I want to try both of them. That Pi, it's been sitting there staring at me saying, use me.
And that is a worthy project to get into. And again, even the programming that he just showed in that video, that all looked very accessible to me, even though I have never done any programming in Python, but I would dive in on that 100%.
Python doesn't intimidate me. It's pretty straightforward.
Exactly. I like it.
Yeah. And that Pi, I mean, I was going to use it as an emulation
That's what I do.
station, but my brother gave me a kick-ass
monster
box
emulation station. Yeah.
with a 5080 RTX. I was like, do I want to emulate on this or do I want to emulate on that?
The $40 computer or the more than $40 computer?
Hey, but that computer can't make me do gestures like that. So
there is something to be said for customizable computing.
Yeah, he gave me a reason to pull the Pi out.
And hook up a camera. I mean, where would you find a camera, right?
I got a couple laying around.
You might be able to, and they might even have 120 by 160 DPI.
Well, it's kind of funny how it had to downsample in order to.
Basically, you're trying to not feed it such a big image, because if you try to feed it the full size images, you would end up choking it with the data you're sending it. You're sending it the much simplified versions, because the gestures, the difference between this and this and this is pretty easy to tell when you pixelate down. So.
Yeah,
I like it.
If it does know when I put up my middle finger and I'm playing a chord.
I got a kick out of that in that last video. About midway through the video, one of the guys, they just show him shredding in the background, and right at the end he goes like, I was like, oh, there's the chord. I know it.
I meant to do that.
I saw it. But thanks everybody for coming out on a Thursday again.
Oh yes, chock full of information.
We appreciate you coming here on Talkin Shhh I.T.
We'll see you next week, Monday with Motivational Mondays. Tuesday, we're doing 2 for Tuesdays. Some of Ange's classic interviews. She'll be back to whip it out next Wednesday. We had to fill in for her last night. It was fun.
Yeah.
And then we'll be back.
Yes. I'll be back. We'll be back next Thursday.
Well, he'll be back. I'll be front.
There you go. Good night,
everyone.
We cover digital audio workstations and music tools. We explore theory, gear, and MIDI too. How to arrange, compose, and the art of arranging. Taking a look at AI and how the times have changed. On a PC or a Mac, and even with a mobile device, we'll be talking about it all every Thursday night. From software to plugins and synths that entice. Dive deep into tech and let creativity take flight. Talkin Shhh I.T. We're talking Shhh I.T. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. From bedroom producers to seasoned pros, we're breaking it down so knowledge grows. Whether you're a DJ or a beat-making wizard, we got the tips and tricks to make your sound sizzle. Mixing and mastering, that's our jam. With the tutorials and tips on how much rap. Get the best quality from your setup and gear. Tune in every week and lend us your ear. We're talking Shhh I.T. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. We're talking Shhh